And 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, are we live?
We're live.
All right, we're live.
Uh-oh.
We're live. What? We're live. Hi. Oh, you're here. Okay. Hi, I'm Matthew Newhall, your host. This is the Technocrat Live. My guest tonight is Robert Piacente.
Piacente. Yes.
Right? Excellent. I got it right. I love it when I get it right. The poor guests for the first couple of shows, when I didn't realize there was a problem, I had to practice.
Did they help you or?
Yeah, on the show. That was embarrassing. I got your present. I got some, what was it again?
White wine.
But white wine.
Yeah.
It was what kind of was it? You asked for specifically for.
Well, I gave you an idea about a Pinot Grigio, but you got me a Blanco.
It isn't a Pinot Grigio?
No, that's a.
I blew it.
No, it's all right.
What's good about Pinot Grigio? I don't know anything about wine.
It's just a nice, delicate wine. It goes pretty much with everything, cheese, and all that.
Oh man!
But,
So I'll get it next time.
A white wine is.
You know what? If you come back on for a panel,
Yeah.
I'll have it then.
Okay.
Sorry, I got the wrong wine. I can't believe I got. You know what? And I was like, I was going to make a whole thing about how geeks are rock stars, but you're too nice for that. With the bowl full of green M&Ms. But I got the wrong thing, and you're fine anyway.
No problem.
He didn't
No
run out of
problem.
here. I'm surprised he didn't run out of here. I'd run out of here.
I'm easy that way.
All right. So as usual, one thing before we break into the news. I just wanted to say I'm sorry if you've been following the show. I promised in the show a few episodes ago, I don't know, 6 episodes ago, that I wouldn't fall behind again. I fell behind. I'm a couple of episodes behind. I'm working on it. I'll get there. They'll get up. I'm really sorry about that. I'm not going to make that promise again because I just can't keep it. But I will promise they will go up eventually. So just keep hanging around.
Well, that's good because I still have popcorn left over. I was going to binge watch them all, and then the links all died.
You binge watched the show. So what do you think of the show? I mean, you came on it, so it can't be
it's
that
interesting.
bad.
I mean, I hope
you can criticize it if you want.
I hope I can stand up to the standard of all the mixture of people that you've had on in discussions.
Is that what's good about it? Is the mixture? Is the diversity?
It's the mixture.
Nice.
It's definitely the mixture. Of,
I was hoping
of
that would be good, and then people would, sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to watch that. That is, they are not technicians. How untoward, So I was hoping that wouldn't happen. I guess it didn't.
No, but that's cool. I mean, even tonight, right? You have more of a garage mechanic than you do of an academic technician.
Right. That's not how I see you, but okay.
I've had my hands in the back of computers, so.
Right. Great. So we're going to get right to the dystopia report. So this is what we call the news these days. It's the dystopia report. Post-nihilism is inevitable. So you may as well embrace it now. All right. So the first bit on the dystopia report is Collapse OS, or the Z80 8-bit OS. So this one I just thought I had to put this because it's called the dystopia report.
Right.
So apparently somebody has gone and written an operating system with the intent of it having minimal updates. So in other words, and then you can self-perpetuate it without any internet connection, and it would run on the absolute junkiest, tiniest, weakest, oldest hardware.
Oh.
And they did this on purpose because they think there's going to be an economic collapse. So this is definitely a new kind of operating system distro. It's GPL'd. I don't think it's Linux based, but it might be. I'm not sure. But it is definitely GPL'd. So you can check it out. I just thought it was kind of funny that there was a Collapse OS. So with the express purpose of being able to use very old hardware to do basic computing tasks.
Well, that was always the promise of Linux until they got real.
Right. Well, no, you can still. Well, so it's funny. So Linux, I don't know if you heard, Linus Torvald dropped the floppy drive. So he actually completely dropped the old floppy drivers. He said it was too much of a pain in the butt. Nobody's using them, and you don't want to keep them in the mainline kernel. You can still get floppy drives, USB floppy drives, but that's out. But actually, in the news, I didn't put it in my list, but it hit the news a few days ago. Fedora is going to be dropping 32-bit. So they're going to only be shipping with 64-bit. So yeah, we've screamed quite a bit. I mean, there's definitely still, I would have thought that would have been too soon, but I guess not. I guess nobody's using 32-bit anymore. So anyway, so I thought Collapse OS was kind of interesting. There is some pretty severe news, and this is kind of a tech political kind of thing. If you don't have an Apple phone, you have an Android phone. I mean, with a few exceptions of Windows Phone users. Angry comments, please. We can see them if you post angry comments. But yeah, most likely you have an Android phone. If you don't know, you have an Android phone. So Android, which you may also not know if you even knew you had an Android phone, is running Linux. Well, there is a big zero-day exploit specifically with Android phones. In other words, if a zero-day exploit is where someone can remotely attack or crack your phone. So if you have not patched your phone in months, and it is a slightly, not a brand new phone, but a slightly older phone, let me read you some of these models. This is crazy. So the Pixel 1 and 2, the Samsung S7, S8, and S9, the Moto Z3, Hawaii. The list goes on and on of high-end smartphones that are definitely still in use. Can be remotely exploited either through the web or through a direct connection. This is really bad. So if you haven't patched your phone in a while, find a way to patch it, please. The thing that's interesting, now of course, someone might be tempted to say, oh, Linux sucks. I can't believe that there's an exploit. Actually, this exploit's been fixed in Linux since 2018. Google runs their own tree of the Linux kernel, and they didn't merge it over. They missed it. So this is a good example of why companies don't necessarily want to run their own trees. Lots of people do it. Lots of people have their own Git trees and they maintain their own things. Yeah. But you only have to miss one patch and game over. So apparently this is in the wild too. That's what zero day means. So people are being attacked. So definitely, if you have a cell phone that runs Android, I'd say just to be safe, patch it. Yeah, it's the only way to know for sure. So I mean, this is not a complete list.
I'm going back to my StarTech.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, can't go wrong with a flip phone.
It fit in my back pocket, and you couldn't break it.
And you look cool when you know.
Remember the little antenna that did almost nothing?
Oh yeah. The action shot. Okay, so so I just thought that was kind of interesting. Patch your phones, people. But after the show, watch the show first because there's going to be more good stuff. This is a politician. So this is a little bit political. So one of the things I try to do on the show is I try to talk civics and avoid politics. Politics being specifically, I see politics as personality based. I have to mention this guy's name because there's no other way to talk about it. But other than that, I don't really care what his politics are. I just think it's interesting. So apparently this Nunes, who is the head of the Republican Intel Committee, has sued Twitter and moved to the discovery phase in Virginia. So this is really interesting because this has never happened to Twitter before. His claim is that they're actually negligent in that they have a policy and they only enforce it sometimes. And he's specifically talking about someone attacking his mother. So there's been a lot of rulings lately on politicians. This actually matters for anyone running a website, right? Mm-hmm. You kind of have to know who your users are, and there was this recently a law in New York State that passed that it kind of implies you have to do all this reporting if you have any users on your computer on your servers. And of course there was the thing with Trump where he had to he couldn't block people from his account because he's a public official. Right. So this is not a public official case. It's actually a public official's mother.
Mother, yes.
Right. So and that's important because and that seems to be where Twitter blew it, because any politician exceptions aren't going to apply to her. So they're not enforcing their code of conduct evenly, and he managed to get a court case to the point of discovery, and now they have to produce mountains of documents for him. So they did it to themselves, and actually, so this is, regardless of what the politics are, this is an important lesson for anybody who's considering adopting an extensive code of conduct. So this is something that there's been this wave that's like a kind of popularity contest where all these big open source programs are adopting these code of conducts where adopting some kind of code of conduct on the fly, like really quick, like there's a social pressure because two people have an altercation and they say, how are we going to resolve this? And there's no code of conduct. What are we going to do? Yeah. And they adopt one in a hurry.
They're trying to run ahead of the bulls.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, it doesn't matter it doesn't even matter what the code of conduct say. If you adopt it in haste and you don't make it sufficiently general, you can also be sued for negligence for the same way that Nunes is suing Twitter. You've set up your organization to be attacked with that code of conduct. So think twice, make sure you think it through really carefully. Try to write codes of conduct that deal with specific situations, or sweeping generalities is trouble, I think. I think that's where you're going to go wrong. So if you two people get into an altercation, write a rule to deal with that altercation. Don't write a rule, to deal with, because what is prejudice? Who hates who? How do you, where does a group stop? It really gets ugly. It's not something that will survive the light of day in a courtroom. So something to think about. Talk to a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Are you a lawyer?
No, I was attempting to be one once, but
yeah, that's right. You told me you were thinking about being a lawyer, right? Yeah, and we had a few people on the show.
I wanted to do systems law, and you had someone on your show.
I had some people on the show, and I'm like, "You're a lawyer?" I was like, "What?" I didn't even know he was a lawyer.
Watch what you say.
Yeah. You never know. Mm-hmm.
Well, we need a time machine. We need to go back to the old days, and I know the old days, and we had bulletin boards, and the worst thing that had ever happened is somebody come over, find your house, and burn your server down.
Oh, that's
okay.
Doxing and arson.
Right?
Yeah, okay, that's not so bad.
Nobody would do lawsuits. Nobody.
Well, in a way, I hate to say it, but is what's worse, doxing and arson? I'm totally serious about this. What doxing and arson, or having someone cancel your life, where you literally don't have a job, can't get another one. Well, I don't know.
One's more costly than the other.
Well, arson can kill you, right?
Yeah.
But then again, so could getting your life canceled, right? If you don't have health insurance, you can't go to the doctor. What if you get sick?
It's true.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not really sure which one's worse. I think I might want. Why change it if we're not sure? I don't know. Anyway, okay. So that was that. Oh, okay. So this one is really interesting. So there is a deceitful and reckless suit against Oregon Health and Science University. So apparently in the 80s, and maybe, who knows, maybe before that and after that, I don't know, but in the 80s, Oregon Health and Science University was running a sperm donor program. And someone donated their sperm to the sperm donor program. And apparently he was assured that it would only be used a limited number of times, and that would be there would be more used, but they would be used for science, just pure science. Right. Well, apparently that's not what happened. Apparently he knew he was a father to 4, and apparently he's also a father to 17 more that he didn't know about. And I
seem to recall a movie recently with that theme.
Well, there was a doctor who worked in a sperm bank. I don't remember the details of the case, who had 400 plus children.
There you go.
Yeah, but that was malicious. He did that on purpose, right? He said that there was a sperm donor A and it was really sperm donor B, who happened to be him. But this might be malicious, I don't know. But they apparently told this guy 4 or 3 or 2 or 5 or some limited number, and it was not that at all. So actually the interesting thing about this is the thing that he's using in public, in his public statements and in the court documents, which is a feasible harm, right? Because usually courts want no harm when it's a suit, so they can figure out a monetary value. This is going to be a huge monetary value because each case could be a lifetime of hurt.
Sure.
That his children might actually get married to each other, not knowing that they're brother and sister. So, and then have children of their own who could be sick. That's a lifetime of hurt. That's a lot of money. So they might be out of business. But more interestingly is, when you give somebody your DNA, you don't really know what they're going to do with it. I mean, whether it's 23andMe or a sperm bank, what is going to happen? So, yeah, deceitful and reckless is probably pretty accurate. Thanks to Chris for pointing this one out to me. Okay, so apparently, next topic, in Russia. So apparently, Russia has sent some meat cubes to space. Cow meat cubes in space. Meat cubes in space. Oh, pigs in space. Yeah, right? Awesome, man. Yeah,
you noted mussels.
Yeah, well, it's specifically the muscle meat, just like it would be in a steak or something.
Interesting.
But yeah, they wanted to know if they could grow beef Animal 57. He used to be an old band of mine. If you guys are watching, what's up? That was an urban myth about that was what the Taco Bell meat was. It was a vat meat. But yeah, they try to grow vat meat in space, and apparently there's now space vat meat.
Interesting.
So yeah, sure. I thought it was pretty awesome. All right, on to Taiwan. Well, and Hong Kong, right? So I blew it. First of all, I wanted to say the other day, I did blow it when I was talking about Taiwan and Hong Kong, and I actually reversed the two for a couple of my talking points when I was on with Bill. Sorry about that. You can look it up. If I ever do a video of gaffes, it'll be in it. So I usually don't gaff too bad, but I know the difference between Taiwan and Hong Kong. I blew it. And then the funny thing is, I did it again on the sheet. Yes. So I wanted to repeat my error. Thank you, Bob, for pointing out.
That's all right.
For pointing that out. But yeah, so it looks like, as of iOS update 13.11, that Apple has removed Taiwan's flag from their emoji list, which of course is ridiculous. What are they doing there?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't read the article. I heard about this secondhand also. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if they actually...
Oh, I cite, man. I'm not getting into that.
Right, no, I don't know if they actually check your GPS.
Yeah.
And if you're there, then the flag is gone.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
I didn't check. No, actually, when I sent you a message the other day, and I'm now on 1.3. I think it is the latest update, 1.2?
Yeah, 1.13 is the newest.
Newest.
Okay.
So I updated, I think, a day ago or something, or 2 days ago. And when I sent you that message, and I said Taiwan, the flag came out. So it's possible that they have logic based on where you are or where the phone is sold.
Right.
And that flag... file 13.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you
Doesn't
later,
exist.
Taiwan.
Yeah, they're getting...
No hard feelings.
They're getting...
Yeah, China's definitely banning this podcast, by the way. We're right there with you, South Park. Yeah, so... yeah, we're not making the China-friendly list. Speaking of which... Yeah, South Park apparently has been banned in China. And if you haven't seen the episode, it is fantabulous. And I haven't seen an edgy South Park like that in years. So good job, guys. Oh, yeah.
Did you catch, it was on one of the financial channels, he did a tweet. And it was a great sarcasm on, thank you for pointing this out kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of the theme in the episode too. It was pretty good. So it's worth a watch if you enjoy South Park and you've been feeling like they've been a little homogenized lately. Yeah, they're done. They've had it. And I mean, this is. So I've been talking on the show about the trade war that's been heating up between China and the United States. And I mean, this is decades coming. So I'm surprised that it took as long as it did. But yeah, it seems to be really underway. I heard a rumor about a treaty, but I was like, I don't have time to look it up. So there's a treaty. I'm sorry.
I think they're trying to slice and dice.
Up until when I wrote these notes, it was escalating. So
yeah, they're just trying to slice and dice. So they don't want to get to the property issues and having court.
Well, intellectual property is a gentleman's game, right? Everybody's got to be playing by the rules. Nothing can really enforce it. You just have to agree to play by the rules. So.
No, I think we ask for enforcement. We want
we ask all the time.
Their people to some kind of court that's going to recognize that there are more rules than internal.
Oh, we ask all the time, and I'm not going to say they've never come through, but they they haven't come through at all.
No.
So they just
look at the copyright and the some of the goods we get on Canal Street.
Right.
Right. Nobody's watching the store.
Yeah. Well, look, I get China's position. China has a very unstable. They have a lot of people, and there's a lot of poverty. There's a ton of people living there. Right. It's a very unstable situation because it's actually what people don't realize about China is it's super multi-ethnic. there's actually a bunch of different Chinese ethnicities. So there's actually racism that goes on too, and prejudice that goes on too among the Chinese people. And I mean, it's not the government's fault at all, but they're trying to keep a lid on this, and it just explodes into riots sometimes. So I'm not excusing oppression, but I kind of get why they're like, okay, yeah, we really need the economic boost. Maybe we're going to fudge the corners here and there. Of course, I think at some point it became not fudging the corners anymore, and I'll let people judge that for themselves. I'm not going to, I can't cite that, but yeah, I mean, come on.
I had an interesting.
This really affects the tech industry because so much tech is made over there. This is kind of the thing that the Collapse OS is talking about.
Right.
Is if all of a sudden the entire supply chain dries up, we got to use all machines.
You mean like California?
Yeah. If you haven't heard about this power outage thing, they shut the power off preemptively in like a chunk of California.
I'm going to tell
over
you,
a windstorm.
I'm going to tell you an interesting quick story about power outages. I worked for Citibank for years and put a lot of time in there. Well, we had
you don't have to tell us which bank, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
I don't care. Okay. But anyway, we had a generator, an oil generator,
right.
In one of our buildings. In fact, it was very close to here, the studio. Anyway, there was a procedure that once a month they cranked this thing up and test it out. We'd cut off the main breaker and go on the supplement and all that, and test everything out. And they'd write down their notes, done, and so on. Well, we had a real hurricane one year.
Right.
Generator went off. Hour later, it just went. There was no procedure in there to check the fuel level and keep it full.
Oh man!
Yeah, somebody got fired over that.
Yeah, I was. I've had a few jobs. I've had one of the few jobs, but my tech jobs, they've always had some kind of disaster manual.
Right.
But I mean,
and you play the game. I mean, it's like a war game.
You play the game. Yeah, it's like a war game.
So
and but like the last one I was at was actually pretty good. They had a disaster manual, like it was a encyclopedia. Still didn't cover everything.
No, well, I think they discovered.
And I mean, it wasn't even anybody's fault.
I think they discovered
nobody imagined what the hell was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was Sandy. That's what blew it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that hurt
nobody
a lot.
was ready for that.
No,
so it was.
That was big.
Yeah, that was.
But
funny.
I think even in California, there was a couple of places they couldn't bring back right away.
Right.
So it was a learning experience.
Yeah, well, I'm actually okay with, assuming that there's enough warning, I'm okay with war games. I think that's smart.
We need them to give us a reality check.
Right.
We get too comfortable. Mm-hmm. I mean,
that's how the
look at me. I'm charging my phone because.
Right. Well, that's how the whole Northeast blackout happened.
There you go.
Right. They just didn't imagine a cascade failure because nobody ever did any war games because of course nobody. You want to shut the power off for New York City for a war game?
Don't do that.
What do you do? I'm okay with it. Go ahead. It's fine. Give us as long as we have like a month warning. I'll make sure to have generators.
I need a little more
up.
time. I want to get some solar cells up and some fuel for the generator.
No, we're just going to fail hard and then go.
Oh, and I got to put up my antenna for the over-the-air television.
You know what Carrington events? Do you know what a Carrington event is? So there's a scientist named Carrington.
Okay.
And
he wrote. Know this, but go ahead.
You might know it. You probably go, I know what you're talking about.
Look, I forgot we went on a motorcycle ride together.
Well, same to you, buddy. No, I'm just kidding. It was a poker run, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there was this guy named Carrington. He was a scientist, and he was plotting sunspots. He actually had a contraption set up where with the like a dark room and a pinhole, and so he could see the surface of the sun. He was plotting sunspots. He was just recording them every day. He noticed an enormous solar flare. Turned out it was an Earth-facing enormous solar flare. The solar flare hit the Earth. And it actually electrified every piece of metal that was more than a few meters long.
Okay, I thought you were going to tell me his neighbor's house was on fire.
Well, actually, shit burned down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because, we were, at that point, we were at the telegraph. Right. And the only thing we had massive, electrical lines between distant places was telegraphs. There was no electrical net yet. There was no electrical grid yet.
Oh, I have an interesting thing about telegraphs.
And that's called the Carrington event, when you get ground currents from a solar flare.
Yes.
And that can happen now. But instead of it just being a few telegraph booths burning down, it could be everything. we could lose. So there's irreplaceable transformers between the segments of the grid. If there was a Carrington event and they went through those transformers, they'd burn them out. It would take them months to build new ones.
Yeah, well,
Congress has gone over this, but they don't have a plan.
We have real issue with our current electronics because can be jeopardized by so many things. The magnetic field's supposed to protect us, but obviously,
right. I mean,
it punched through.
I mean, like, it would be bad if we lost all our electronics, and it would be bad if we lost the grid. But could you imagine losing both at the same time?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the end of civilization.
That's why we have to move to California and go through the test.
Well, you know what?
Rub two stick here, dinner. Rub two sticks together. But anyway, you brought up the telegraph lines, and you may know this story, but a lot of people may not. And this is a small version of an ATM from Citicorp.
Okay.
Or back in the day, Citibank. I brought my emotional support toys with me. But anyway,
hopefully you don't need them. No, you won't.
I was very much involved in the ATMs at one point in time, and the story goes like this. Citibank decided for their first ATMs when they were bringing them into Manhattan, they used the old telephone line, teletype and Morse lines and all that stuff because it was all copper, because nobody was using it.
Right.
So this was pre-300 baud. I mean, this is a techie show.
Right.
The rate, of data was very low. Could have been as low as 78, but I'm not sure exactly where it was.
So just to put that baud rate into perspective, if you're newer and you don't know about baud rates, so back in the day when everything was connecting, everybody's endpoints were connecting to the internet with a modem.
Right.
Those modems are basically just glorified sound cards.
Yes.
And the baud rate was the rate at which the sound would shift.
Yeah, the modulation of the
modulation
frequency.
Right.
Yeah.
And eventually they kept increasing it as the processors were capable of generating faster and faster baud rates up until, what was it, 56K? And then they put a cap on it. They actually said you can't do anymore because it's starting to interfere with normal copper lines with people talking on the telephone.
Right.
They were starting to hear,
you'd hear
over the
you'd hear the negotiation.
Right.
Because some would be at a lower rate and some at a higher. But anyway, yes, all those old copper lines were going to waste. And the bank got them for free, and that started ATMs in Manhattan.
Right.
Before that, there was really nothing like that. So it was kind of
cool. I remember there were a lot of ATMs. It was cool. It was cool. I was young, but it was cool.
Yeah, it was quite cool. Of course, the one we have now is even more interesting history that...
So there's actually an interesting name collision about it with ATMs.
ATMs?
Yeah. ATM stands for two things in the ATM space.
Okay.
One is automated teller machine. That's the one everyone knows. But there's also automated teller machines, coincidentally, I don't know, also use ATM protocol frequently. The asynchronous transfer mode.
Asynchronous.
Asynchronous transfer mode.
Oh god, that's scary that I even would think of.
But it's funny that there's this weird name collision. So is it named ATM because it's used on ATMs, or is it actually? It's not. It's asynchronous transfer mode. So if you're not a network geek, you wouldn't know that. If you're a network geek, never, man. Shut up already. Let the man talk. But,
No. You bring back memories.
Yeah.
No, when you get onto subjects like this, I mean, I'm going to be 70 in June.
Wow.
Okay, and there's a lot of tech that's been under my nose.
Right.
And I don't get to talk to anyone about, especially the older stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why, as a joke, I brought this book in from what did we decide its printing date was?
I think you said 1918.
No, 1917 was the copyright. 1923.
Wow.
And it's a whole series all the way up to spark gap wireless transmitters, long wires and all that, circuits, all the switches, coils and everything else. It's Hawkins Electrical Guide. This is book number 6, Switches and Circuits.
So I had a 60s Chevy, I had a 66 Impala, and it's funny because, you can get a printout of the wiring diagram, and it's just like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper.
Yep.
And it's just the whole entire wiring diagram, the brake lights, the hazards, the turn signals, the ignition system, everything's on there.
Right,
The interior lights, the radio, and that's it. That's the whole car. And now that's like not even one chip in one corner of it. Because they use networks inside of cars now.
Yeah, they got pulse signals and things react to commands, basically.
Right. Yeah, you can hack them pretty easy too. So shut your internet off in your car if you have it on. All right. So let's keep
the flag. Yeah.
So let's keep going with the. We did South Park. Oh, so this one just hit the news like a day ago, I think. So apparently, China is going to require a facial scan to buy a cell phone in China. As of December 1st. So if you go to the Chinese equivalent of T-Mobile or AT&T or Verizon, I'm not picking on any particular company, they don't have anything to do with this, I don't think, but Chinese telcos, if you go into a Chinese telco kiosk or whatever and buy a cell phone, they're going to do a facial scan on you as of December 1st, and you won't be able to get a cell phone if you don't.
So it's the purchaser's profile,
well, the thing
put together.
The thing I'm thinking about this seems a lot like Hong Kong and what's happening right there right now. A lot of people are covering their faces, and they can't, even if they track the guy all the way back to his car, they don't recognize his face. They don't know who it is. But if they have everybody's face in a facial recognition system, there's another law that just got passed this week also: no masks and no face paint. So, if you haven't been paying attention, it's kind of interesting what they're doing in Hong Kong, because not only are they wearing masks and face paint, I've even seen a projector system. Someone put up, put up a post of I didn't put this in the news, but where you can project another person's face on your face in real time, so you have both expressions conflicting with each other, and it just can't read it. It looks creepy. It looks like you're a ghost or something.
I always thought they make a lot of use of the pointers,
right?
The laser pointers.
Yes, and the laser pointers. That's a new tactic.
I'm surprised somebody hasn't come up with a necklace or something where they can just.
Easy with the mic.
No. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Who, me?
No, it was me.
Oh, okay.
I touched it.
Right. Well, you're not accustomed to having a microphone?
True.
The only thing we ask is that you don't go pee with it on, so everyone hears. That's bad.
I thought that's what the jar was for.
That's what the plants are for. We can't really interrupt the show. The people must have their technocrat. So
I'm surprised they haven't done all that.
The laser pointers are pretty cool. That's a cool tactic. Apparently, if I even saw this, I don't know if this is widespread or it's just this one video. I've only seen the one video, but who knows how much stuff is being censored coming out of there. But apparently, if you take an active tear gas canister, and drop it in a bucket of liquid nitrogen, it shuts it off. So there was a picture of a video of a student actually grabbing I don't know, maybe it wasn't a student, maybe it was an adult, grabbing a canister, throwing it in liquid nitrogen and throwing it away, and it just shut it right off. So they've been pretty scientific about, they've been using umbrellas extensively.
Yes.
Because it's not abnormal to carry an umbrella. It's a very umbrella toting society, so it's an easy one to justify having. You're walking through the subway with a baseball bat, people will be like, is he playing baseball, really?
Even masks, surgical masks, that's a very popular thing you tend to see.
Oh yeah, it's for my health. Yeah. It's pretty good. It
is very.
Yeah, take your cell phone picture, your mandatory cell phone picture with your surgical mask on. All right, so this one was interesting. So I kind of found this matter of fact, but there's a person named, a young kid, a 16-year-old kid named Boyan Slat, and apparently, I don't think he's 16 anymore, but he was 16 when he started, came up with this idea for an ocean cleanup system, going to the great plastic concentration in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, the island.
The plastic island.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they actually have this GPS-driven, automated, kind of like horseshoe buoy system, and it drags through the ocean, and all the floating plastic will be brought into.
It's also got
into the center of
net,
it,
like a drop net.
So what it does is it actually signals back to a boat when it's full, when it hits a certain density of plastic bits, and then a boat will come and grab it, use a net, and pull it all up, and then recycle it. And it was really cool, and I just wanted to say I'm a huge fan of geoengineering. I can't for the life of me understand why there isn't more geoengineering happening, right? For every, every time somebody can quantify the damage that we're doing to the planet, my first reaction is, well, come on, let's do the geoengineering and fix it. Why aren't we doing that?
Right.
And nobody has an answer for me, and I'm really aggravated.
Or
I wanted to popularize this guy. I thought
or
it was
even
interesting.
better, when you do a return. I mean, personally, I don't do it. Somebody goes through my garbage and does it. But when you do a return of a bottle, actually, that money probably should go for its own cleanup. Plastic's getting to be a problem. I listened to a few very scary reports. The plastic itself continues to break down where you can't even see it anymore. It's being ingested by our food.
You said something that was, that's very scary. We're all ingesting plastic. We don't know what the health effects are yet, because it's only been really happening for a generation, but it's increasing over time, not only on us, but the health effects on the ecosystem in the ocean.
Yes, absolutely.
But so you said something that's actually like, I'm worried about. So everybody's like, oh, money, we need money. No, I need numbers. I need to know what the numbers are. I need to know what the projections are before, what the bad projection is, and then what the projection is of the cleanup, of the remediation. And they need to be right.
I don't think they could quantify it right now. I mean, it's going to be like, we're always trying to find out how big the universe is.
Right.
The problem that I see with plastic, and I'm not one of these, vegan, crazy, got to have everything perfect in the world.
Right.
Probably just the opposite. But I do like to be informed about the science around a lot of.
Well, this is our rock, man. If we screw it up, we're done.
Yeah.
The rock will be fine. We're not going to be fine.
I had an interesting notion about garbage in general.
Right.
And I'm like, why didn't anybody think about just throwing this thing in a volcano? And there was actually people that studied this, and supposedly it can't be done. And I couldn't figure that out.
Well, probably because the fumes would be toxic, for one thing.
Well,
if it actually
the fumes from the volcano are toxic.
Yeah,
but,
they are.
But,
so, you know what it is? Even if I think that's a social problem. So I think that it would be. They'd have to have some really hard numbers about geology that I don't think they have for the same argument right back at you.
Yeah.
I think geology is not thoroughly understood, and so they wouldn't be able to prove that they didn't create an eruption or additional tectonic or volcanic activity by especially if they were doing it a lot. So here's the good news. I actually am fine with landfills. I actually like landfills, and I think the places that get rid of their do NIMBY their landfills are going to suffer, because today's landfills are tomorrow's mines. So
I assume
it's just sorting out atoms.
No, but I assume you're talking about landfills that have leaching control.
Yeah. So assuming that there's no leaching, leaching is a huge problem, and that's the problem with most nuke plants too, right? People are very anti-nuclear because they worry about leaching into their water supply, and they're right. Even fracking, same thing, leaching. It's always leaching. But if you solve the leaching problem, if you can isolate the leaching, man, you want a landfill. Maybe not in your backyard, but in your state, because that's going to be a mine later. That's it really is. It's going to be. It's just a matter of organization. As we get down to the atom, and we start doing we were talking about bottom up and top down nanotech, right? But either way, it doesn't matter which one it is. If we have atomic scale machines, those landfills are no longer a problem. They're a source. Right? You no longer have to dump oil into an oil tank, into a huge boat to ship stuff across oceans. You got it all right there in your backyard. So I'm perfectly okay with landfill. Floating around the ocean, there is no such thing as leaching, because it's everywhere. It's literally there's one entire zone, right? That plastic can get into any animal there and kill any animal and really screw up the ecosystem in a way that's completely uncontrollable and maybe even unforeseeable. I mean, other than it being an advanced ocean current study, there's really no good side to it.
No, but it's also happening to rivers and lakes and more in I don't even, we say third world countries anymore?
Well, I don't know. We feel like more one every day.
More every day. Yeah.
I live in third world countries. They call it third world countries.
Oh, there you go.
Really? Okay, there you go. Nice.
So I guess we're politically correct in that sense. But
how dare you? I'm offended.
I've seen pictures.
You're canceled. I'm canceled. You're canceled.
I think the correct term is developing nations.
Developing nations.
Okay.
I think that's a good politically correct term.
Womp womp. Yeah.
But no, but the pollution hazard is,
Yeah.
Trump's, and I'm not talking about Trump, but anyway, any development, because it's going to go clog, their social environment.
Right.
It's tough. It really is, and there's no easy. I mean, there are breakthroughs every day.
Yeah, I used to use the word Trumps a lot more, and I don't use it anymore.
Try.
Yeah, no. I'm just going to take that word out of the vocabulary because it's too easy to mix it up.
Steve, we have to ask him to come up with the.
I guess
Counter
surpasses. Thank you.
Surpasses, yes.
Surpasses. Thank you, Steve.
Excellent.
Steve is a human computer. He is
love that.
part cyborg.
I'm telling you, you should have him window.
Cybernetic fact checker.
When he fact checks, you should have him window it into the video.
I'll just have a matrix background going, the binary code going up and down. As I do
I don't see nouns. I just see adverbs.
So we're
all right. So that was ocean cleanup.
your reports.
Yeah. So we got 2 more, and then 3 more, and then we're into you
Ooh,
for the whole thing. So these are cool though. So this is worth holding off. You're cool, but these are cool too. So check this out. So there's a possibility of white holes. So white holes
Versus
white holes versus black holes.
black holes in space. Okay.
Right. So I don't totally understand this. So I would love it if someone who is really into physics, corrected me if I make a mistake. I don't think I will, but you never know. But white holes are quasars, essentially. So the argument has been that quasars are collapsing stars, and then when they collapse into black holes.
Okay.
And that
And they still invite everybody into the party.
and it just acts like however you expected a black hole to act.
Yes. Okay.
So the problem is that's not what they've been finding on telescopic, what they've been studying quasars. It turns out that what's been happening is that entire galaxies seem to be appearing around these quasars, which doesn't make sense, but actually supports a different theory.
New galaxies?
This is what I'm reading. I don't know, man. I'm not an astrophysicist, but I mean, if this is true, it's amazing. I mean, so it seems that it looks like there's new material around where the quasar was with no explanation in the current.
We'll have to look into
the current astrophysics kind of cosmology kind of theory.
Right.
So, but the white hole theory apparently does explain it, which is kind of like an electric universe kind of thing. So,
well, everybody in science likes to keep things in balance. There's something about, having things balanced, like an algorithm, equal sign at both sides.
Right.
Therefore, if you have a black hole,
right,
and it's bringing. It's super gravity. We don't even know what gravity
so here's
is.
my
If it's bringing, then you're saying that the white hole emits matter.
Right.
Black hole attracts matter.
So we don't really know what black holes are. We can't observe them directly like we do with traditional science.
Right.
We can only theorize about them. Okay, we have an event horizon. We don't see anything coming out of there.
Well, don't we?
We have neutrinos coming out of them.
Don't we see them?
Dark matter coming out of them.
Dark matter, but don't we see them when stars that we knew were in disappear and we go, they're behind something.
Right. Well, here's the thing. So there's another explanation, at least one more explanation for that, which is that they could be wormholes. Right? They could be gravity, they could be gravity wells as Einstein described them. Einstein didn't predict black holes. He just predicted, the gravity, that all mass had gravity.
He didn't. The twist in gravity.
They've been using his predictions to go in different directions since then, and prove his theories. But it's possible also that it's a wormhole. So if it's a wormhole, where maybe a black hole's an output and a white hole's an output, a black hole's an input and a white hole's an output.
Right.
It's possible that all the stuff you see going into the black hole on one side is coming out on the other side. And the thing that's interesting about this is it could mean that Big Bang is wrong and there's actually lots of little bangs.
Well, I wouldn't say Big Bang is wrong. I have my own theory on Big Bang.
Oh, okay.
But let me see if I can get this word right. Entropy.
Entropy.
It's reverse entropy.
Yeah.
The black hole basically is the collector, there's a emitter. But
oh yeah,
so
I think that clearly this what we think of as is from superficially from a black hole absorbing all light and matter nearby is happening. That is definitely happening. We can see it. That's but the question is, why is it happening? It doesn't. There's another explanation other than a gravity well, and the reason I never liked the black hole, I never liked the singularity that composed the entire universe theory, is because there's probably a property of the stuff in the singularity that would define exactly when it would explode, and it's kind of, I think we don't know that number. There's a constant, right, where there's a certain amount of mass, and then the nature of the state change in the black hole would change. And I don't think we can know that number. And I think that the idea that that number is infinite is crazy, because every time we use an infinite number, we're wrong, and it's actually just an approximation towards an actual number.
Have you ever thought about, I've read some articles where they believe that the results of the Big Bang, that the spread out is slowing down. And the question is, are we being called back?
Yeah, will we even know?
And to the singularity, right? And the question is there something other than a black hole, the void, the original void from the Big Bang? And when we get back there, it's going to circle around, start all over again.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
What about this faster than speed of light thing they just discovered? Did you hear about that?
Oh, where they're moving particles?
They believe they saw something in space, and how they did it, I didn't get into the depth, but they believe they know of something that travels faster than the speed of light. Right. Which is, going to start blowing theories all out.
Right. So, so this is, this is the idea of faster than light speed travel is depends on relative distances, right? So it's a product of distances.
Time difference. Yeah.
Right. So the thing is, if you could compress space, theoretically you could compress the distance within which you could travel, in it, and then you could travel at the speed of light. Like that's where the warp field idea comes from.
Yeah, actually, I guess
from like Star Trek and stuff like that.
They saw a particle go through what, lack of another name, a wormhole.
Right.
And appear at the other end of the wormhole.
Right.
And the indeterminable distance, other than observation,
theoretically,
and indeterminable speed, you could say, gee, we beat the speed of light.
Theoretically, you could go through a wormhole and not be going faster than the speed of light, right? So, like if you were
standing.
We do this all the time.
Yeah, no problem.
This is just part of our tribal dance here.
It goes behind the scenes. Don't worry about it.
Do not look at the man behind it.
If you ever feel lonely back there, you can come out here.
Yeah, you can, join in.
You can put your stats and graphs up on the big screen and watch them from the.
You just lay on the table so you can paint me like one of your French.
No, I don't want to go there.
I don't want to be just another prop. You're using me.
I'm a person too. I have feelings.
Steve has feelings. Steve has feelings.
Yeah, me having feelings.
The trouble. Oh, we don't know is he really does. Yeah, but it's all totally. Things are definitely moving faster than the speed of light already. It's just they're so far away, we don't look at it that way.
Right.
But so it's just a matter of question of how do you compress that. The space element of it. Of course, right. You never reach it. You just It's another one of those things where you just approach zero.
Mm-hmm.
You just approach a number and you never actually reach it. But there's usually a constant at some point. It's we haven't figured it out yet. So.
And we got enough time, I guess.
Yeah. Have all the time in the world.
All the time in the world.
No, it's fine. That's all right. I blew it, huh? That's because I was massaging my microphone. I was like, does this make me look good at this angle? Do I look good, huh? Do I look good?
Well,
you look great, by the way.
Oh, thank you. We'll see how I look on TV and sound. I told you I went to a couple of fashion shoots. I was not the model. My car was.
Wait, whoa.
But
do tell.
But You know, they have whole crew with makeup and everything. You have
That
to,
was John Vartos, right?
Yes.
Was it John Vartos ad?
Yes.
See, here's the funny part. I said this to my wife. What do you think she said?
What?
Oh, the kids wear some of his clothes.
Oh yeah, no.
I didn't even know. I'm like, ugh.
I'm surprised
She knows who all the fashion people are. She's creepy that way.
well,
Like, I'm like, I don't know who this is.
They're all up on them.
It's a menswear line, actually.
He's got some women.
Oh, he's got some
lines
women
in
line
there,
too?
yeah.
Okay.
But I'm surprised you didn't get his cologne for Christmas.
Maybe I will now.
Yeah.
I know there's a sexy car ad out
There
there
you
with your
go.
car in it. So
There you go.
yeah, your car's kind of famous, right? It's going to be in the car show soon.
Well, hopefully we're going to make the Americana. I got the invite.
Right.
So if the weather isn't bad, we'll be there.
Cool, man. Cool.
In Manhasset, Long Island.
So I didn't even tell you this. I actually got an invitation. You know, so Jonathan mentioned my van on the air. So I have a camping van.
Yes.
I actually got an invitation to All Ford Carlisle Truck Show, as an invitational truck instead of just applying for it. They
Nice.
invited me.
Red carpet.
So you still have to apply, but it's
no,
possible. Like I might actually get to put the Friday the 13th van in the building for that show. So I'm really excited about that. I think I have to fix it up a bit, but it's fixable. It's just dings and stuff. You know, I use it. Right, we go cross country with
if
it.
you, this is probably stepping out of technology.
No, it's not. No, don't do that. Anything you want to talk about, and I'll explain why a little later when we get out of the news.
All right, but anyway, I have a product you can look. I don't want to mention it over the air. We're not selling it, but
whatever you can mention it. Go for it.
It's
you can pitch it.
Dr. Chip Color or Dr. Color Chip.
Dr. Color Chip. Okay.
Dr. Color Chip. They will, if you have a factory color, they'll give you the factory color.
Yeah.
And if you follow the process that they tell you, anything from a little road nick or anything of that nature disappear.
Really?
Yeah, you should. I could show you during the daylight on my car. It's amazing what.
I wouldn't be able to see it unless you point it out, kind of thing.
You'll know where they are because you did the work.
Right.
But you really have to. And most of the judging of cars is at arm's length.
So what? My Marauder looks really great these days.
Okay.
I just got it repainted recently, but not all the panels. Okay. So there are some panels with chips on them. So I would actually really use that.
Great on road rash kind of stuff. And all
this is not a paid advertisement. We're just having a conversation. You know those BS commercials usually like, hey, Bob, let me tell you about my hemorrhoids. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we're not doing that. We're just actually talking about this product just randomly.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially if you go to car shows and stuff and you want to clean it.
I've been going to doing all Fords. I've been flipping back and forth between the Marauder and the van, depending on which year. Just kind of random. But that's cool, man. Yeah, congrats on that ad and congrats on the invitation to the Americana. So hopefully,
hopefully I'll get.
If you're in New York, you can go to that.
Yeah,
right?
Manhasset, Long Island. We're at the Americana. It'll be Sunday this Sunday.
This Sunday.
This Sunday.
This Sunday.
Yes.
The 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. Sunday the 13th. 13! I love that number.
Sunday the 13th.
All right. So this one, now I put this last. This is actually, so if you notice the dystopia report gets a little less dystopian towards the end. There's actually some hopeful stuff in there. So this is the most hopeful thing. It's early, so it's very early, so I don't want to get people too excited because this is life and death for some people. I've had family members with cancer, but it looks like there may be a cervical cancer cure. The CRISPR-Cas9 process, which is a variant of the CRISPR process. The CRISPR process is that process where they use it's basically they do a search and replace on DNA.
Right.
So they've been making minor revisions and improvements to it, and apparently the Cas9 is the version number of the CRISPR process, so to speak, right? Like version 1.2 or something.
Not to make a joke out of it, it's like Heinz 57.
Yeah.
But this works.
Yeah, but there are really 56 other versions of it.
Now,
I don't know. I want to try version 3. That would be pretty bad, I bet.
How did it deliver? Well, we know the CRISPR goes on the DNA.
So CRISPR
how
is
do
just
they deliver the DNA?
So I don't know. It was a layman's article.
Okay, so it didn't talk about cells, a virus.
But they were talking about so specifically they're talking about cervical cancer, which is specifically caused by the palombovirus.
Okay.
So it was, but I don't think it was attacking the virus. It was attacking the cancer.
Cancer, yeah.
Yeah, using the CRISPR method. So I don't know what the delivery mechanism is. I just read this today. I ran out the doors. I'm like, I can't leave this out. So I probably will do a follow-up next week on it. And by the way, well, let me finish this up. So, yeah, I think this is hopeful because if they have this licked, if this is for real, I mean, it was 100% mice, and they've been using it in people because, of course, with cancer, because it's deadly, you can get more human trials more quickly because it's like, well, they're going to die anyway. Maybe this will work, Yeah, so
I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're done for, I bet you don't care. But otherwise, yeah.
The good part is that they're doing this. The sad part is, sometimes you hear about these cures.
Yes, please.
Sure, thanks. You hear about the cures, and then they're not applied for whatever reason. I just heard about this young girl who had taken donations, just cancer in the brain, inoperable. That's the issue. But I remember reading, I think it was about 6 or 8 months ago, where they took a common disease, or it was either measles or chicken pox, and they had done a CRISPR on that, and then injected it, but it would only do one thing. It wouldn't live long, and when it was near cancer, it would just eat the thing to death.
Right. So,
and it wouldn't do any other harm to the body.
So theoretically, I guess you could probably use the bacteria that CRISPR came from, the CRISPR process came from, to deliver it. But there was just a thing on mosquitoes where they did genetically modified mosquitoes. They released them in the wild. They're having unexpected results. So the problem is, whenever you use a biological organism for delivery,
you don't know where it's going to go.
You only have to blow it once for it to turn into a zombie outbreak or something. I mean, so they don't. That's why I don't even want to say what the delivery mechanism is. I couldn't guess, but apparently it was good enough that they were able to wipe out the cancer. So.
Well, that's why I almost started biting my fingernails, because you said something when we talked about the operating system. You said perpetuating, and I'm like, ooh.
Right.
Back in the day, we all wanted to write code that would write itself.
Right. So I think with the Collapse OS, what they were talking about is just a mechanism where you could have a Collapse OS install, and you can run a command to manually install another copy of the Collapse OS that you're currently running on the other thing. So you don't have to have an internet. You can literally just plug two things in together and bootstrap the OS.
Didn't we call that worms? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, right? But I mean, if you're in that situation where everything's that broken, if you're really going on 8-bit, things are really broken. So, hey, who knows, right? Most likely, that's a crazy conspiracy theory. But Chicken Little only has to be right once. So.
Well, talking about DNA, maybe that's the solution. We could we could be a host for a DNA fat cell that has all the knowledge in the world, and if we get totally, it's kind of like where we're storing seeds up in the North Pole.
I know what you're talking about. Right? Yeah.
We're all carriers of all the information that's ever needed, and if it all goes down, we can retrieve it.
I'm looking for it. So that actually, there's so there's actually one better than the seed. The seed projects are interesting, but there's actually one better than that. So something called the Biogenome Project. They're actually working on storing every single DNA from every single living organism on the planet in the Biogenome Project. So they've already, the seeds are actually active living seeds that have just been frozen and suspended animation. This is actually recording the DNA of everything. So
interesting.
Yes. Yeah, I got to talk about that one a little bit. There is the scientific possibility of doing kind of a space Noah story here, where you could literally take the entire genetic knowledge of Earth and move it to another planet, which is insane. I mean, it wouldn't be easy, but it is now probably within the realm of possibility about 2025 based on current storage rates.
Well, this might get us back to the legal argument you had about sperm.
Right.
We may find out who our donor was and want to sue. Can sperm, right?
First contact, our first result. Bleep, bloop, bleep, bloop. You've been served.
You've been served. You know.
Are you bleep bloop bleep bloop? Ah, bleep bloop bleep bloop. Okay, you've been served.
The ancient alien.
I am Groot.
The ancient alien guys believe, we're here because of Pam's.
That's why they're not doing first contact,
right?
because they don't want to get sued.
That's it.
They
don't want us to know whether.
According to our calculations, you're responsible for all human pain since the beginning of time.
That's right. Oh, and by the way, the Neanderthals got a lawsuit too.
Right.
Because they were discontinued.
Nice. Wrongful death. So that's it for the dystopia report. I like to cap it off so people can, clap the board so people know that I'm finally.
No.
It takes a while to get to that.
Yeah.
It's actually it's really what time is it?
It's an interesting.
We've been at it for an hour.
Yeah, it's an interesting run, and you said you get this from different places.
It's completely different every week, and it's
amazing.
The news is just flowing. None of the major channels are covering this stuff. This is super important. I mean, we're living in Black Mirror. There's only one technology in Black Mirror that isn't real. The rest of it's all real, which is just crazy. Like that there's a science fiction show about our reality, and it's not really science fiction, and everybody treats it like it's science fiction. It's like, there's a disconnect, people. That's why I have the Technocrat live, and we're talking about the technocracy.
No, this is cool. And again, maybe I'm the odd cookie here, but I binge watched what you've already got online.
Dude, that's great. That is the best compliment in the world. It's like if somebody writes a book, the best thing I read your book, I loved it.
Yeah.
You're floating in the air, you're clicking your heels, you're like, yes, he likes my book.
Well, proof of the pudding is I told you your EQ is different from number 1 to like number 5.
Right.
Mike. So anyway.
Yeah. No, that was good. That was a good tip. We'll see how I sound. Hopefully, I hope I'm a little bassier than normal.
Yeah.
Do you like my bassy voice?
Yeah, more announcer type.
More romantic. Oh, hopefully more announcer. No one wants to get romantic with me.
There is a table between.
Would you like some wine, by the way?
Sure.
Or you're waiting for coffee, or you're going to do both?
I was waiting for Steve to come back so he could watch me drink. No, wine's fine. Yeah.
All right. Do you have a pick? Chardonnay?
No, I'll go for the white. Yeah.
Go for the white? Okay.
Yeah, right in the center.
Right in the center. There we go. Okay.
We're going high class?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very high class.
This is like Great Gatsby stuff.
Yeah. Well, it actually was it became a.
You're going to tell me you need, and I didn't bring mine.
Yeah, I usually
do I have one in the car?
To do it offline.
Not.
So I've had some humiliating experiences. This might be a screw cap, so we'll see.
No, it doesn't look like one.
Do you think it's a cork?
It's a cork.
Oh, we're screwed.
You know what I did in college?
We're not screwed.
No. Get a Bic pen. You remember Bic pens?
Yeah.
Just punch it through.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do this.
No, you don't struggle with that.
No, I have corkscrews in the box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
You're a survivor.
I am a survivor. Where do you see my corkscrew? Someone tried to get me a better one. I didn't know how to use it, so I still use my Swiss Army knife.
Give you one of those the needle and the pump. It's very eerie to watch the cork start pulling out as the pressure builds.
Oh wow! Nope, it isn't that. It's this.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So.
I have one of those in my travel kit.
Yeah, pretty simple. And now we can watch Matt mess this up. So this is an interesting story how we met. We didn't meet through computer stuff. I know lots of computer geeks.
No,
because of my lug and because of just working in the business.
I think we met through the lug, and then the motorcycle thing happened.
Really? Are you sure?
Because I'm not, and
okay. I don't really know.
I'm 70, and
I don't know our origin
I went through
story.
the '60s. I don't remember things.
So anyway, if you don't know about Victory Motorcycles, shame on you.
Victory Motorcycles.
Yes, but I bought the second.
Yes.
All right, Opa, did it. I bought the second Victory motorcycle on Long Island. And you bought one, like the third model.
I had
Vegas, right?
Vegas, yeah, an 03.
An 03. So I had an 01.
I don't know how well this will show.
I still have it, actually. Oh, yeah, there you go. There it is. There's a Victory Vegas. You can still get these. They were making all up to the end, so there's
pretty much. I can still get parts and stuff.
There's still some fairly new ones out there.
But Well, yeah, I don't know what either the bike came first, and even if the bike, came
did
first,
it catch you?
Just the pants. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
even if the bike,
I'll get. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I'll get you more wine.
Even if the bike, no, that was my wine over there.
That was your wine? I spilled my wine on you.
Yeah.
How did it get across the table?
I don't know.
Do you really have a napkin in your pocket?
No, hanky.
Steve's gonna come back and he's gonna be like, "What? I can't leave you guys alone for 5 minutes."
No, start
total
throwing
chaos.
stuff around. Look, he's
gonna kick us out.
Let's just
don't tell him.
Let's just toast and thank you for the invite, by the way.
Okay, sorry, I got you there.
It's white wine. It's not gonna. Plus these are dungarees. Anyway, either the motorcycle came first or me.
Yeah.
But I never connected you with Linux. You're out on.
Yeah, I was. I had a Linux was 96, so.
Yeah, so
97.
It's possible the bike came first. I never connected you, and then when I started going to LUG, Long Island
Right.
Linux user group.
Right.
For Long Island, it was almost like you were another person, and I didn't make the connection.
Right.
And it was funny. We were sitting down for lunch, and we started talking about both, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I don't really.
Where was I?
I don't remember which one came first either. It's crazy.
No, I don't. But I mean, when it comes.
So you actually were the organizer for the Victory Motorcycle Club in our area.
Yeah.
And I kind of went on a couple rides with you, and we hung out, and I was like so happy to find another Victory. I mean, I remember the first time I rode my Victory. And
there were other guys that had victories.
And the first time I rode, there was no other guys. And one guy literally spent 10 minutes just staring at me and just saying the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, what is that?
What is that? Like he just couldn't believe that there was another motorcycle company.
Here, here's an interesting story about what is that. Did you meet? You had to meet Tony. When you met me,
I think I did. Yeah.
He was like my wingman, so to speak. And he is the funniest, not that he's a comedian, he's just the funniest guy. And so quick on his feet with comments. I would call him up and say, hey, let's go for clams. And we used to go up to the shoreline.
Right. Oh, that's the best. I used to go to Pete's Clams in Long Beach with my wife all the time.
And we used to go up to Bayville. Mm-hmm. So he goes, yeah, let's go for clams, beer, whatever. We jump on our bikes. And these were, as you said, the bikes were so unique at the time. We go riding up. We pull our bikes into our spots. We're backing in, taking our gear off. And all of a sudden, this Ducati comes by and stops. Now, we're talking about a vintage. It had to be from the 50s.
Oh,
the paint, you could tell, was lacquer, had that dull shine to it.
Right.
The guy had a leather cap on, like the old style cafe racers.
He had a cap on, which is illegal, by the way, so he was committed.
The goggles on top.
Yeah.
And he's looking at the bikes. Next comes up, I think it was a full dress Honda.
Yeah.
They came out with one, and then comes out a full dress Harley.
Yeah.
And all three of us sitting there staring at our bikes, and they give us a nod, and we give a nod back. I mean, there were no questions, and they just bolted off.
Well, so the thing that people may not realize is that Arlen Ness was like the top designer in the world. My old bike looked like something out of the 50s.
Yes.
But your bike, the Vegas, was the first one that Arlen Ness designed, and it was beautiful. And I was just like, I was so jealous when that thing came out. I was like,
oh yeah,
really?
And they pushed the fork out a little bit, so it kind of looked.
It looked like nice and raked. Yeah,
nice and raked.
Yeah, it looked like a factory chopper, and no one was doing anything like that back then.
No. And the tire in the front was skinnier and a little bit fatter in the back. But I mean, we weren't talking about real customized stuff. It was pretty standard sizes. Well, long story short, with this moment in time, we have our beers, we have our clams. Mm-hmm. And we didn't talk about anything about the other bikers, right? Mm-hmm. We get on our bike and we're coming back, and we're on Northern Boulevard. There's that diner over there, Seven Thieves. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a really long light, miserably long.
Right.
And I yell over at Tony and said, Tony, what are you going to tell your wife about seeing Billy Joel today?
Right.
He turns around to me and says, by the time I get home, I'll have sang karaoke with him. He knew who the guy was on the Harley. It was Billy Joel. We were down from his house.
Billy Joel is checking out your bike. That's so cool.
Yeah. I bumped into him.
Apparently, he has a huge motorcycle collection.
That and a shop.
He's probably like,
has a vintage.
I haven't seen that one. I need to get that one.
Yeah, he also has his own vintage shop up in Oyster Bay.
Nice.
Bumped into him at the old OBI on the South Shore, the Sunday thing.
Which is basically the only thing to do on Ocean Parkway. Yeah.
It's where everybody goes when their family's doing church in the morning. All the Ferraris come out.
Cool, man. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll take a spot.
You missed the cork opening and the spill. There was lots of adventures.
We were...
Is it boiling hot?
Precious.
We're talking motorcycles.
We're talking motorcycles now. No. I drink
Steve, you don't ride, do you?
I don't ride.
No, okay.
I'm too lazy to get in my car, so
Okay, cool.
So that again, I have to thank Tony for that story. But
That's cool, man. That's very cool.
yeah, it's it was more interesting. Well, the funnier one that I usually tell people.
Well, you were all over you were riding every weekend, weren't you?
Yeah, I went down.
See, I would tear it up during the week.
I went down drove it to Florida. We went all the way down to Key West.
Nice. I had not taken a ride that long.
That T-shirt I showed you.
Ottawa's as far as I've ever been.
It came from Daytona. That was at Lobster Fest, and it was all a mixture of Harleys and victories, but a lot of victories.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Nice. Yeah, I still get excited. I'm like a dog. I get excited when I see a victory on the road. I'm like,
Well, they're still rare. And they were rare back when we bought
so the thing that was cool about victory, like from a technological kind of point of view, not only was it, there was so many Harley clones. There was Harley, and then there were Harley clones, and then most of the other American brands were either very limited, kind of like boutique, one-off, like a Ferrari, essentially.
Yeah.
Where, like where they just build one at a time, or it just there was nothing else. There was no other completely different manufacturing base. So Victory was really new. There was the Indian comeback during the early days of Victory, but then they died just as quick as they came back. And
well, that was interesting. I had a discussion with somebody about that too, and it was a couple of things that they said about Victories. One, it was over-engineered.
Yeah.
You should not, other than getting parts, you should not worry about that bike.
Yeah.
Number two, it didn't have that millennial appeal.
Right.
And and it was always, you'd go to the shows and somebody would show up with a non-Harley, and it was always,
So it seems like the millennials are big on retro stuff. They like the older stuff, actually. Now that they're older and they're coming of age, they have money now.
The cafe racers, but which is interesting. If you looked at any of the new electric bikes, they're very cafe racer looking.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for a full-on cruiser that's an electric bike. I might actually dip my fingers in there.
I guess they could put enough battery on there. Full-on cruiser.
A guy did it to a V92C. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
Yeah, on the forum. Somebody actually took the original Victory, the one that looked like it was out of the 50s, and he actually he pulled the motor and transmission out and put in an electric motor. I don't know. He just did. Last I heard, he did it with parades, and that was it. But who knows?
Yeah, because the weight on that. I mean,
there's been huge improvement. One guy took a Zero motorcycle. This guy that does
Zero. That's one of them. Yes.
A totaled Zero motorcycle. Took the drivetrain out. Was it Chris Fix? And he does Teslas. And he actually repairs Teslas.
Right.
And nobody was doing that. He was the first one to do that. And so he did this with a Zero motorcycle. He made a whole hot rod out of it. And it's great. It's totally awesome. So they've really come a long way. Like the batteries, originally it was laptops driving lithium-ion batteries,
yes.
but it's not anymore. Now it's cars. The laptops are just along for the ride and improvements.
I'm not, and I'm a motorhead. And so are you.
Yeah.
And
I'm a big-time motorhead.
Bruce Springsteen should start singing right now. But anyway, I do like the electric electrification of vehicles.
I do too. It's it's great.
I think it's fast.
They're really fast.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but I used to soar. I never got a pilot's license, but I joined a soaring club. You know, the glider plane.
Oh, okay.
You know, engine.
A glider? Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I got to take you out.
I didn't even know that.
Out on Long Island. They
like if I look up and see a glider, it might be you?
It could be, but I'll have a licensed pilot with me.
Right.
But the interesting thing about that, I've always liked planes and the whole concept of the flying car. I mean, I grew up with that, right?
Right.
We're all waiting.
Where are my flying cars?
Where's my flying car? Well, I just saw that somebody adapted. And there's a couple of designs, but this one was unique.
Right.
They adapted a large drone, all electric, with basically a bucket seat in it that you sit in, and you use a laptop to control the drone commands.
Wow.
And you drive the drone you're in.
That's crazy.
So they can also make it autonomous. They can do a bunch of stuff.
That is not the coolest drone I've ever heard, human-occupied drone I've ever heard of, but that is a very cool one.
Yeah, I can
Actually, somebody did a UFO. Someone has built a working UFO. It's a flying. It's a round flying wing.
Oh, with propellant.
It uses
not anti-gravity.
It's not anti-gravity. No. Yeah. But nobody's ever done this before apparently,
Yeah.
or at least not. I mean, nobody that isn't a government and did it in secret.
The government did it. If you've ever seen any of the pictures, you wouldn't want to get in it.
Right. Yeah. Well, it kind of looks like that. It's very tiny, right? But it's basically just a giant drone, and it's got four portals in the disc.
Yes.
With the helicopter blades force it up, and you control your altitude with the four blades, and then it has jets in the back for the, I assume.
Oh, is this the one with the little fin on the back? I think I may have seen a picture of it. They're still not very aerodynamic. That whole disc shape.
Right.
'Cause it's not a wing. It has no. I mean, what the heck is?
It's funny because the place that we did it on one of the shows. I don't have the link with me, but they were actually pitching it. The company that put it together was pitching it as very aerodynamic. They thought that was the future because of that, but maybe they are lying. I mean, it wouldn't be the first case of tech vaporware in the history of the world.
No, it would not. But they could be doing something. I'm trying to think. There's a technical. An old mathematician came up with this, and they have his name as the effect. When you
the ground effect?
No, not the ground effect. That's No, the way wind or water would follow a curve. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I cannot remember the name of it.
Well, how does it work?
If they would have somehow also added an airflow over the disc. Forget about the airflow that lifts. But if they would have taken an airflow over the disc and it would curve, it could create that.
It could create the lift?
Could create a wing lift.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
If they did it that way. What the heck is something?
Don't worry about it.
Anyway.
So I was. What do you think about Polaris dumping Victory and switching to Indian? So they actually bought Indian after that Indian motorcycle failed, and So I was just at I went to Dee Schneider's ride a few weeks ago. I was there, and the amount of Indians in the parking lot was staggering. They were one of the sponsors of the meet, and at least a few of the VIPs had Indians.
Yeah.
I think Dee might. I don't know if it was Dee or Mark or someone has an Indian. It was right at the front of the line of the VIPs, and I was like,
he could have been the featured guest this year.
Okay.
There you go.
Featured guest rides right behind Dee.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but there were several Indians in the VIP section too, so I mean they were everywhere. I couldn't even, and I remember one of the reasons I thought of you for the show is I was looking around and I'm like, I could not find an Indian motorcycle Riders Club booth or representative, like nobody with a name tag or anything, and I was like, man, if Bob was here, he totally would have had a booth, and it would have been a Victory booth, and it would have been like flyers, and everybody's hanging out there, and it would have been hoopla.
That was one of those days when I thought, hey, it would be really cool, because we had a nice crew.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, and we used to go out for steak and cigars and, scotch once a week.
Well, it's kind of over now that victory's over, right?
Well, I think there are a few people around that were or still are part of the club. The VMC, the national organization, still cranking.
Yeah, yeah.
And in fact, they just had a meet somewhere. I remember getting an email from them.
Right, right. Well, I think a lot of them adopted the motto. They even made patches that ride till the wheels come off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, well, I told you.
Yeah, yeah. Which is probably will never happen if you're careful.
I don't want you to... Your Harley friends may pull up next week.
Yeah, that's fine. Bring it. Come on the show. Then we'll have a debate.
Actually, and I told you the history behind this. It's his victory.
I got it. There we go.
If I have to explain, you probably ride a Harley. This has to do with a Harley bumper
So here's the bad news. Here's the bad news.
Back in the 60s.
So the bad news for me is actually I've been thinking about for the next bike switching over to Harley instead of going with Polaris again because I didn't want to get off.
You don't want to get burned.
I don't want to get. I mean, fool me once.
They could do it with Indian. They could put it on the shelf.
They committed to making parts, but they legally have to for 10 years anyway. Yeah. So that's not really a commitment at all.
But they could do the same. They could put Indian on the shelf.
Yeah, yeah, they could. And it ticked me off that they did it for the slingshot too. I was like, are you kidding me, man?
Oh yeah.
So the slingshot's kind of
Can-Am kicked their butt, right?
Yeah, they're not really doing. It's not really doing that well. So basically, so they made the good news is they made the Indians more modern. But the thing I always loved about the Victories is they just look like spaceships. Yeah. I mean, my hardball looks like a space tank.
And they're so well balanced on the road.
I mean, mechanically it's a great. The computer designed the engine from the ground up, from the beginning, and every time they got complaints or problems, they fixed them. I mean, they really listened to feedback, and I mean, good for them because some of that engineering went into the Indians now. So in a way, the Indians really kind of are Victories, but also, but the styling, I like the styling of the Victories way better. I like the futuristic styling instead of the classic styling.
Definitely a beautiful bike.
And the funny thing is, Harley started making some of their bikes more futuristic to keep up with Victory, and now the Victory's gone, the more futuristic bikes are the Harleys.
But they were using the older parts.
Yeah, they're using the older designs.
Yeah, they
still have the 3 oil change system, and the 1 oil change on Victories, baby.
The engineering that went in to some of those bikes. Electrical problems, everything else. I mean, again, Harley's got such a great history, and we wouldn't enjoy The Perfect Vehicle, by the way, which is the title of a book. I can send you that one.
Perfect Vehicle?
The Perfect Vehicle.
Oh, okay. With the Carno engine, I suppose? I guess?
No, it's about motorcycles.
Oh, okay, cool.
There was another book I bought.
Man, you're well-read. You read a lot of books.
And I got this book.
Right.
Which we want to get to, but
he gave me homework.
Yeah, I gave him a lot of homework to read this book. Before I get to the book, although we're on the motorcycle theme, I just wanted to give you a background and why this book got important. Mm-hmm. I bought it because I bought the motorcycle.
Right.
I said, another book about motorcycles.
Nice. Little did you know.
It was like the few people that have ever gone to see the play in the city, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those. It's a surprise.
I have not seen it. Okay, now I know to go to see the play Oklahoma if I want a surprise.
The newer one, I think they made it a little more PC.
Oh, okay.
All I know is I bring my date in there, and there's a lot of nude people up on stage singing, "Oh, Oklahoma."
But it's art.
Yeah, it's art. It was like,
yep, that's
art.
art.
She goes, "Did you know?" And I go, "Nope." Been fooled.
Yeah.
But anyway, we 12 years ago, I guess we met. 12, around there.
Yeah.
Either through the bicycles and then the lug thing, Linux came up, which was cool because I really enjoyed going, and I stopped. But
right.
And so I mean, this experience has been interesting because it's kind of like bring out the dead. We haven't seen each other in such a long time. Anyway, what I wanted to tell you is I'm glad we have Steve as a fact checker because I think I said I'm turning 70 in June.
No, that's cool, man. That's fine.
And
I'll keep you in the straight and narrow.
I used to.
Hey, like Bob, you're weaving a little too much over there. Back in the lane. You're on the dotted line.
I felt like I was a sponge and I would make great soup.
Right.
But today I feel like coral. Things just cling to me.
Awesome.
And I need other people to go figure out what to do with it to make food anymore.
Like speaking of that, I'm just kind of making conversation here. The bike, when you used to do all these group rides, and I've always hesitated with group rides. That's probably why you didn't see me on that many
and
of them.
after a while, I stopped doing them too.
Yeah, because and one of the things I realized is, I'm talking to a more experienced biker in the parking lot at this huge charity ride. I'm like, half of these guys don't ride their bikes except once a month.
Yeah, it's scary.
And I rode to Manhattan for years. I rode out east for years and years and years as a commuter.
Yeah.
So I had, that road I knew inside and out. So the bike and the road. But I'm like, some of these guys, they don't know what they're doing. I'm like, what if one of them hits me? I don't know, or for my kids because they didn't, ever really practice with their motorcycle. They're just too perfect. There's scratches on them.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, they had a term for that, the Rolex riders.
Yeah,
they spent all these money on these bikes.
Well, you know what? They turned out, so I'm not bashing them at all.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to, it happens in rides. People trip. Did that ever happen when you had an event where somebody crashed into somebody else or knocked someone else off their bike or something?
We had a couple of people on Southern State Parkway that almost creamed a bunch of people. They would just cut through because they wanted to make an exit, and even with police presence, it didn't help at all. So today, a lot of bikers do charity work.
Well, a mistake's a mistake.
That's great.
The police aren't going to stop a mistake from happening.
Today I go, I put my money down, I buy the T-shirt and say, where are we going? I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that line.
Right. That's how I am too. I'm like the lone wolf. I don't want to.
You always get the newbies there too. And I'm not, I'm not a snob. If that guy wants to come into the parking lot, I'll set up cones.
Yeah, me either.
I'll help him out or whatever. If he wants to go on a long ride.
I think you're very snobby, sir.
Yeah,
No.
But when it comes to a group ride, I want my life.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. So I've done that too. I'll meet you there, because it just felt safer to me.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the Melissa's Wish, I don't want to down it. It was really safe. The people around, you could tell there were some people who didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
But they gave instructions on the website. They reminded everybody before the ride. Everybody more or less followed the instructions, and it kept everyone safe and away from each other.
Well, sometimes
they were being sane in the way they shared the reins.
Sometimes you can know what you're doing and look bad. I remember I did a 2.5-hour ride.
I've never done that. I've never dropped my bike. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm gonna say I went up to Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
And I knew what I was doing with the bike, but I was tired for some reason. I don't know. Could have been out the night before, whatever. We did 2.5 hours. We had one gas up, and then we were going to gas up before we got to where we were going to go.
Right.
And we're up in Poughkeepsie, and we pull into this gas station. And put my kickstand down, and next thing I know, my bike disappears underneath me, and I'm sitting on the gas tank.
It's magic.
It was just magic, just disappeared.
It's gone.
700 pounds of metal just disappear.
It's been abducted.
And the guys all come running, and what happened? And I goes, it's tired. What happened was my kickstand went down, but there was a damn pothole right by the gas.
Oh, did you get hurt, or you're right?
No, I was fine.
Okay.
I could have taken the leg out, but again, you learn certain things.
I blipped the throttle once and slammed one of my footboards right into my ankle. That was fun.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Okay.
You learn stuff like don't go on your bike with shorts.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sports bikes are cool, but not.
Oh yeah, I have a burn mark on my leg. It was just, I always put my gear on, but if you're working on it, you're like, I'm just working on it. Yeah, no, 3rd-degree burn. Lovely. Yeah, moving the skin around. Look,
so I probably looked pretty novice that day. Well, and I have had a lot of road under.
You got any good scars?
And I don't even know if I got a scratch that day. It was I just laughed. I thought it was the funniest thing.
So are you like a big Linux aficionado, or are you just kind of into it, or
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I have 2 alien...
You running Windows at home, or Apple?
No, Apple. I have an iPad, and I have the cell phone.
Okay.
And that's my world, other than I have 2 laptops running Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. See, you're running Linux at home.
Yeah,
I know. You're running Linux in your pocket. You're running Linux at home.
I started with Red Hat.
Oh, it's actually half Linux anyway, so nobody knows that. Yeah.
I started with Red Hat. One of their floppy distros back in the day.
Right.
And while I found...
Floppies, man.
And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't the technology. They got very commercial for me. Which is great for, like guys like you running servers and all that. I wasn't doing Linux.
That trend is still continuing, and it's
Really?
actually becoming a problem.
Okay.
It's becoming a technical problem.
So as a person at home,
Right.
I wanted something that I could play with and didn't feel like I was running into this real commercial,
So
trend.
here's the problem. So I haven't contacted everybody. I'm maybe halfway through my list of contacts on the show. I'm hoping to do a 1-year run and then do another season after that, and maybe then I'll start repeating people and having them back on. And I've contacted some of the people who are successful professionals, high end in the field, really doing something. People don't want to. The people who are in the high end tech don't necessarily want to be in public, not because they're not they don't want to, but they aren't allowed. Because they sign non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah, it's a real
and they sign, non-compete, and they restrict their behavior. They're not allowed.
I'm retired. All my non-disclosure agreements are gone.
I'm like, you don't have to talk about your company.
Yeah.
You could just talk about, what you do in your spare time. No, apparently they can't.
Oh, wow.
So like not everybody, but some people. That's the answer I've gotten. So it's creating a chilling effect on open source. So when I started Lilac, there was none of that. It was a hobby. It's a joke. Yeah. Nobody takes it seriously.
Some very interesting people that would come in and give us talk. Remember the Eclipse? Now that's going back.
Yeah.
When it first came out, and everybody was like, "Wow, a nice development environment." Mm-hmm. You had that guy there that talked us through it.
Yeah, one of the things I got to do is I have to restore. We had an incident where the mailing list to our hosting provider blipped, and we lost like 2/3 of the mailing list. So a lot of that data, but we still have it. Because guess who has every email? Yeah. So I just have to rebuild the list. So I will before I die, I will do this. I will rebuild that list, and everything we've ever done will be back up on the internet. But yeah, we've had a lot of really, and we've had some people have really succeeded, and they've really done a lot of great stuff. And but it's not just that. I'm not just talking about my show. The problem is in the industry. A lot of the big tech companies will let people work on open source projects, but they want them to work on Web 2.0 stuff. They don't want them to work on other things. They want them to work on things that help the company. And so, like, if all of open source is this, they're working on this, and it's not really healthy for the whole for the whole society.
Right.
It's a society. Eric Raymond was right. There's feedback loops and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's hurt Linux a little bit. I see some of the things that I know that 10 years ago 100 people would have jumped on. Now nobody does, and I'm like, what is going on here? And I think it's a shame, but I also think a solution is coming. So
we'll see.
I'm hoping. I think that the Web 2.0 technology is getting cornered now, partly by legal stuff and also partly by other technologies. Web 2.5 and the Web 3 technologies. Stop me if you don't know what I'm talking about.
I got you.
Yeah. There's new web technologies, distributed technologies. Everything's Facebook centric right now. Everything's Twitter centric. Everything's Google centric right now. APIs. We're getting away from that. People are coding furiously to get away from that. Yeah. So.
But anyway, you asked one of your other guests, well, what'd you do with your Linux or the computers you had at home and all that? At first, it was basically to get away from Microsoft and Star Office.
Right.
And I know you're a fan.
Oh yeah.
You are a fan.
Yeah.
And
I still am. OpenOffice is awesome.
Home automation.
Yeah.
I mean, Linux was
Mr. House.
there.
I don't know if that's the cutting edge now, but we had a talk on Mr. House. That was great.
Yeah, all of that stuff had my interest, and it was like tinkered toy kind of stuff for me.
The stuff you can do now, man, it's amazing. I mean, there's this whole. The monitoring software will typically have active plugin components like Nagios, but also more in Prometheus now. It seems to be what people are moving towards. Yes. And you can do stuff like you can monitor for a state on a web page, or most things have web pages now because of the Internet of Things, and you can react to it. You can send it a notice, but you can also run a script to do a thing. So you could have levels of home automation under your control, not someone else's control, so they can hack it, like in Mr. Robot. Just started, by the way, if you're missing it.
True.
1 month spoiler rule on here, so yeah.
I
No,
think it's slightly beyond the 1 month. I don't know.
no. Well, Mr. Robot was the first episode came out last week, so that's definitely not.
First episode?
Yeah, the first
I thought
of the new season.
Season premiere is.
Yeah, there's a season 4. So the season premiere was last week. So that's season 4 is off limits right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so season 4, Joker, which it's gonna be good. There's lots of good because we talk about.
I've heard two sides of Joker.
I don't even care, you know.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Anymore.
I don't even. So I can tell you from the old Joker, pre Nolan and back Joker.
Right.
You know, not talking about from Christopher Nolan's movie and in the past before that, and I'm assuming Killing Joke came out around the same time, right after Christopher Nolan's movie came out of the Dark Knight, right? So right after the Dark Knight, I think the Killing Joke came out. So before that, Joker was always a psychopath, straight up a psychopath. From what I've heard, I'm not sure he is in this movie, and. Because psychopaths are born that way. That's the science consensus. I've had people argue with me. They might be right, but I'm just going with what science is doing right now. I'm like, I can't know everything, so I'm going to go with what they decided and, what the official definition is. So yeah, he's clear. So I don't know. It's come up a lot on the show. I know it seems like it would be like a stretch for a tech show, but actually no. There's been a ton of stuff with schizophrenia, with autism, with psychopaths. They work in the tech industry, and actually sometimes they're important parts of the team, but they have special needs too. Right, so this is something that comes up as a social aspect of tech. I mean, I don't know if it's interesting to folks. I think it's extremely interesting, but because it affects behavior and it affects the direction of technology. They're technocrats, so they're in control, right? The technocrats rule. So
makes you appreciate the the song that was the trailer to the movie. Oh God! Yep, there you go. The mind went. Let's go get it back.
Well, you know what? Your supplemental brain's still charging.
Yeah, no,
right?
but it wasn't.
Well, no, everybody's doing that. This is part of your brain now. So you gotta. If it's not charged up, you're done.
It wasn't in the talking points, but.
No worries. So how did you get your start in computers?
Computers came along, I guess, when I started college.
Really?
And it was Fortran.
What was the state of physical machines back then?
We had.
Was it mini computers or was that mainframes back then?
We had mainframes.
Okay, cool.
And a lot of punch cards.
Not punch cards. I love punch cards.
And job control.
Yeah.
And I taken business courses. Well, I actually started taking engineering.
So it's part of your business curriculum, or
it was. They were electives, and I loved it. I actually started in engineering, electronic engineering. Was taking courses, and I guess I was too impatient, because they were talking about tubes, and everybody was into transistors, and I had them at home, and I used to do Heath kits and Radio Shack stuff, and I'm like, why? Nobody uses tubes anymore. Right. Although if you're an audiophile, stay with tubes.
So I just want to say, I don't know if you kept up with amps, but I just went amp shopping not that long ago.
Right.
Almost every amp company and more than not amp lines have tubes for
tube finals,
tube finals, and they just do electronic effects, and then they use the tubes for.
Yeah, you got the Helix running into Mesa heads, which are always pretty much tubes now.
Yeah. So it's you're not the only one. Yeah, it seems like that you just get that warmer sound. It's more accurate, especially with distortion, right? Distortion's all about electrical fields and feedback and the fuzziness.
Well, that's my belief. When digital versus analog, and everybody, even when they talk about AI and the brain and neural nets, and they go, oh, it's all binary. It's not. Yeah. It's sitting in an environment where serotonins and other things influence your emotions, are pumped in. Now, it may be a binary circuit,
right,
that says I want more.
Our brain signaling is just as much chemical as electric.
Yeah, I want more chemical, but the chemical itself is in an analog world.
Sorry, we don't do that on the show. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's not an exact.
Look inside the tin, but don't show the camera. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not an exact amount. It's fuzzy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no like, you're getting so many cc's of adrenaline right now, or serotonin or whatever that brings
Dopamine.
up dopamine, yes, so that you get happiness, sadness, and different things, and our mind, for whatever reason, we haven't found all the connections, right? Because you can get stimulation through hearing.
Well, I think at this point they probably have found most of them, but the problem is the storm of chemicals is so complex that they're having trouble, assigning any kind of system to it. Like,
yes.
It's just like DNA, like a lot of people are, when we do bottom up on code, when we're writing something, especially if it's like a mathematically inducted kind of computer science thing and you're writing code and it's very systematic. Every piece of code, every bit has a purpose. DNA is not like that. It's just freaking chaos. Chaos, 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 useful change, chaos, 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 useful change, chaos, chaos, useful change, go to statement all the way back here, chaos, chaos, useful
chaos.
change, go to over here. It's like spaghetti code, and I'd imagine our neurological system would have to be that too, because
Oops.
whoopah! In fairness, I drank 2 of them. I'm talking with my hands.
The
That's
first
why.
time tonight. Huh?
Well, the wine went on the floor.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, it's fine. It's all right. No, it's just a little bit. Yeah, it's good for the carpet, right?
It's white wine, so don't worry.
It's not like the other day where I spilled half my salad on the floor and then spilled another third on the floor.
These things are a big deal. Okay?
Yeah, I didn't even want to ask to eat in here again. I'm just never gonna eat in the studio. It's a tragedy. But yeah. So absolutely, it's fuzzy. So and then you're in college and you're getting your business degree and you got
Fortran in my face.
Fortran in your face.
And I fell in love with it.
And you got your bachelor's degree. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I went on to CW Post.
Okay.
And by the way, the group I was looking for was 21 Pilots.
21 Pilots.
And that song that was part of that recent movie that was out, but the whole theme was about being, you're the new person entering the group in prison.
Right.
Yeah.
21 Pilots. Okay.
What was that song?
Only Trenches is really worth listening to. That album.
Trenches?
Yeah, their newest album.
Okay.
Right. But what was the movie with? They brought all these guys out of prison.
Was it what? Can you name an actor or a director on it or anything?
I wish I could.
Okay. Well, if we figure out the song, it may be worth adding to. We have a playlist for the show.
Oh.
We have the Technocrat Live playlist. So we have a playlist of music that we. So if you remember it, let me know and maybe I'll add it. I'm a ruthless dictator, but I will consider all submissions. So.
Well, we know how the brain works, right? You give it a task, and about an hour later, it comes out when you don't need it.
Right. Well, that's what? That's a very good point. This is why we have a long show. Seriously.
You're talking about Suicide Squad?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Oh.
Out of prison. No, that's a very much a DC movie.
Right.
Yeah. No. And
no, that's true. They were all in mutant prison. That's right.
And the trailer song, not the theme song.
Oh.
But the trailer song.
Well, there's a few trailers. One of them was
21 Pilots.
Really?
Yeah.
They also had Bohemian Rhapsody for one of them.
Bohemian Rhapsody was the one everyone recognized. Yeah.
But it's the trailer one, and it's all about when new people come into prison, and they.
Tool's first album's all like that. Yeah, really, like they're very. It's very dark. It's all about psychopaths in prison.
No, this was very, very dark.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes.
Suicide Squad.
So what ends up happening is I get my Bachelor of Science degree in business, and from CW Post. And I actually thought I wanted to go on and do systems law. And that would have been I wanted to be a lawyer that did something with computers.
Right.
And computer cases and all. I saw it as an up and coming.
Yeah, you were probably right about that.
And
and anything with the word computer in it was up and coming.
Yeah. So I went to Hofstra, and they had a course in operating systems. And they had a course in some law. And I took the 2 courses, and I realized that I didn't really have the aptitude for the law.
Really?
But when it came to operating
What was missing? Was it just too dry?
No, I just
busy work?
Didn't have the recalls and.
Interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't recite cases and stuff like that.
Okay, I got it. You just weren't. You just didn't have the passion for it.
I had the analytical part of it. I could analyze a case, but I couldn't recall it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the other hand, the operating system and the pieces of it and that whole thing was just like something that just drew me in.
Right. You don't need a lot of facts of computers. There's more concepts and logic and language.
It's Legos.
Yeah.
So I went back to Post, went to one of the professors, and I said, where do I go from here? This is, my law thing didn't really work out, or it's not going to work out.
Right.
Don't forget those courses. I wasn't matriculating as much as just testing the waters.
Right.
So they wanted to build a.
No. You have to. Everything you do in life, you have to see it through to the very bitter end, no matter how miserable it makes you.
Yeah, that's true.
No, that's not
but
true.
Then there's the thing, life sometimes.
You know what? Humans are moving away from that. Really, we are. So you were on the right track.
So I said to him, what do I do? And he goes, guess what, son?
What?
We're opening up a course in a Bachelor of Science in Information Management. Woo.
Nice.
Antennas went up.
Okay.
I said, but I have a bachelorate already. I wanted to send a master's. Well, this is going to be a master's program, so because they're all graduate courses, actually, take them. And we'll.
Was he BSing you, or is this just dumb luck?
No, he wasn't BSing me as much as, life just ran out of the run.
Right. This is like crazy synchronicity. You got lucky.
He told me they would take my credits.
Yeah.
But since I didn't enter under the master's program, I would have to probably take some additional master's courses. Because most colleges at time when I was going to school, they would always carry over credits. Took a course at Hofstra, they would recognize it and give you credit for it. But bridging a master's course, take it at a bachelor level, right? That was a whole different thing. You needed departmental permission. But there was also a rule that you couldn't get a degree at school unless you did so many subjects at whatever level it was.
Right.
So the deal was I'd keep going to school until they opened up the master's program. I would convert to the master's program. They would tell me how many additional courses I would need, and that was going to be my master's degree.
Right.
I kind of dropped the whole.
And then someone poached you.
Well, no. Well, yes. As I said, I've only been on 2 interviews in my life. Everything else I was pirated from some company.
Nice.
So I got pirated, and life.
I got poached out of college too. That's why I was interested.
No, I didn't get poached out of college.
Oh, okay. I was in college. I was working on my bachelor's degree, and someone's like, come to our company. And I said no, and they said money, and I went, wait, show me that again.
Money.
Yes.
So I basically, I think I had 3 more courses, and I would have qualified for the bachelor degree, and we were a year away from the master's opening up, and I probably would have had to take another 6 courses. I didn't care.
Right.
But life came at me fast.
Right.
Getting married and, different jobs and all that.
Well, as long as you're succeeding, there's no reason to go back on it.
And it got fun. I was working at Cole Morgan.
Okay.
That was my last interview.
What is that?
They did submarines and a lot of electronics and defense. They were up in Seacliff.
Building submarines? That's awesome, man. I didn't know that.
No, I didn't build them, but the company.
Whatever. You build the logic for the computers for them. You're building them. They don't work without it.
They threw me into the department that did the numerical control over the photo circuit machines, the drilling and plating and you name it. And you remember, I was kind of into ham radio a little bit.
Right, yeah.
Right? I liked that whole technology.
Right.
And I started in engineering.
Right.
So they throw me in front of and that was the last interview I went into, and it was another story interview. I meet the general manager of this place. I mean, he's the guy, basically ran the place, right? And he was an engineer, and he's interviewing me, and I had questions.
Right.
And he didn't satisfy me, and I go, look, is the guy still around that had the job? Because they told me he moved on, and I didn't know if he moved on
to a higher plane.
Higher plane, or moved on in the business. Said, yeah.
He moved on to the job in the sky.
He moved on to the plant that's got our newer technology, and I said, can I sit down with him? And I sat down with him, and I said, look, I really want this job, but before I throw myself on the sword,
right?
Bring me out a listing. Let me see how good my because all Fortran at the time.
Right.
And I said, let me see how good I can sight read, Fortran and code and figure out what it's doing. I did pretty good. He sent the word back, and he says, yeah, he can do the job. He knows what he's doing. So
nice.
You know what? I go back.
I have never had that experience, and now that I think about it, that was stupid. Yeah. I really should have asked to talk to the last guy.
Yeah.
There's not enough of that now.
No.
You expected, they're expected to dump their brain into this, and he hands it to the next guy, and he looks at this, and
that's BS. Put the code in
establish a relationship with the old guy, and you can say, hey,
show me the programs I'm going to have to maintain, the algorithms, all that stuff, and
that's underrated. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
So. I get back in this guy's office, and I wanted the job. I mean, obviously now I knew I could do the job. Now I knew what my value was.
Right.
So I said to him, look, let's put it this way. This is what you're offering for the job. This is what I need to live right now.
Right.
Okay? I'll take the job for 6 months at this amount. And if I don't make it, you got 6 months to kick my ass out, and it costs you less.
Right.
But then I said to him, but when the 6 months is done, I don't want what you're offering. Here's what I want. And 3 months later, I got what I wanted, and I had this department. And there I was.
You wrote your own ticket again.
I wrote my own ticket, and
you're just making this up as you go along, aren't you?
Kind of, just kind of
cool.
push the envelope.
That's the way to do it, man.
That was a General Automation 1830, which was an IBM 1130 1800 clone.
Okay.
On steroids.
Nice. How many of those were in the world at the time?
Enough. There were enough around.
Okay, that's a popular one.
GA, well, they were popular against DEC because they had a higher the circuit boards could handle higher spikes, in a commercial environment like a manufacturing environment where not all the time your electricity is running, correctly back in the day. So these,
I just have to stop and laugh. You're telling me you're just a greasy mechanic in the garage, and then you're telling me this, and you're writing drivers for submarines.
What ends up happening is somebody wrote, and it was it looked almost like IBM's code on their microfiche. We had a paper tape spooler.
Yeah.
And no, I'm sorry, it was a plotter spooler, because we used to get the plot information that would be digitized off of a digitizing machine. We would then take paper tape and feed it into the system. The system then would create all the controls for the drilling machines.
Okay.
And would also create a plot that they could match up with the Mylar.
Wow. So this is almost like early 3D printing or CNC kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the people would then retest the holes and all that crap, right? And we could drill at different angles and stuff, and it was a lot of coordinate geometry. I mean, it's really crazy stuff. And as I said, I found myself, I was never really great at math as much as I liked it so much, but somehow my mind would figure things out.
Right.
You
sleep on it and you wake up and go, Eureka!
Like this book. When you read this book,
I
want your reaction, because he goes.
You're going to make me read another book?
Yeah.
He made me read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Well, it's about motorcycles.
And did you like it?
It was fucking amazing. I am a dick for not having read it sooner.
Well, two things. One, because it's a motorcycle story.
It is a motorcycle story.
Two, because
that's not why I love it. I love it for that, but
you've studied some things about mankind's psyche.
Yes, I have original theories about mankind's psyche.
And in here,
that dovetail pretty well with that thing.
Yes, because he had a dual personality.
Yes.
And when he finally got out of the dual personality, he's discovering that his whole quest.
Was that his official diagnosis? Was that what they came up with later? That he was
dual
a multiple personality?
He discovers that the reason he had the dual personality, and that he was either one or the other person, or talking back and forth between the two.
Right.
And he was totally whacked out on this motorcycle ride.
Right. And his son's telling him he was doing stuff that he doesn't remember.
Right. When he gets to the college where he taught, which it was like you, we went on a motorcycle ride together.
Right. No, that's you. I remember. You don't remember.
He finally remembers what gave him the split personality,
right?
What drove him to madness and all that, and why he was out, trying to find all these spiritual things to try to get his mind and body back together.
Right.
And it was that he tasked himself in trying to define the word quality.
Right. That's right.
It's amazing.
And it's funny because you can tell that he lost some of his rational capabilities.
Gone.
So the guy had this is like a seminal book. If you're into philosophy at all.
Yes. And you like motorcycles.
If you like motorcycles, if you're into philosophy, if you're interested in mental health, or if you just appreciate a good read on the origins of logic.
Yes.
And science.
Yes.
It's great. So his original personality was a university professor, and literally created. So it seems like, if he was diagnosed as a multiple personality, the name for that now is dissociative identity disorder. I'm trying to go too fast.
Yes.
And DID, and it actually is. It happens only in people who also have schizophrenia. So it is everyone with schizophrenia doesn't have DID, but everyone with DID has schizophrenia.
Interesting.
I believe that's the case. Correct me if I'm wrong. We can see the comments, so you can do it real time. So I had actually, when I had the neurologist on, I had the DSM book, the psychology books, in case you need to look something up. Okay. But I'm pretty sure that that's the case. So. It seems like he had his first break. So what happens with DIDs is, and I actually had a friend who's a DID who told me this, and thanks to him for explaining this, is that as they get older, it gets worse.
Okay.
So it makes sense that actually he may have, what he doesn't know, what the author doesn't know when he wrote the book, is that may have been waiting to happen all along. There wasn't a damn thing he could do. It may not have been a search for quality. It may have been some chemical thing in his brain.
What ended up happening is he lost that second personality. That second personality.
Well, he didn't lose it, though, because he came back in the book.
Well,
he did the thing on the mountain, and he doesn't remember it, and his son remembers it.
Right. And the other thing is that it's second personality. Usually when you have a second personality, it's outward to other people. Mm-hmm. This is more inward, and it would task him. It was like it was a teacher. Mm-hmm. He drives you nuts. In the beginning, it's a very hard book. But when it gets to the end, I didn't find it hard
at all. I found it
I found it a little frustrating because you're trying to follow who's talking.
Right.
And because sometimes his personality talked in the first person and would task him, and then he would be talking in the first person, and then we'd have the people that were along on this motorcycle ride, his son, and the other couple, and they brought comment. But again, here's the interesting thing. I have to apologize that I bought this book because I thought it was about motorcycles. And I was getting into motorcycles, but I bought another book, which I'll send you the title. It's called The Perfect Vehicle. Mm-hmm. That one was right on about motorcycles and so on. Mm-hmm. But I started reading this book, and what it did for me was, when it came to the discussion of quality, his quest to define quality.
Right.
What is quality?
All started by a professor uttering a retiring professor
Yes.
uttering a casual sentence to him.
But that's what drove him to madness.
Right.
And then it took him this.
He was right.
This right. Oh yeah, well it is.
He's totally right. Everything he wrote is correct.
So what ends up happening is this becomes interesting to me, and here's where the tech comes in, not just the motorcycle hobby. The tech comes in is because I'm a manager now, and we're doing system development. I got pirated a couple of times, and now I'm at companies where I'm managing requirements people, coders, testers, doing coding myself, and everything else, because you have this piece on top down and bottom up and all that.
Right, yeah. Bottom up versus the ultimate bottom up is mathematical induction, minimalistic code, possibly even assembly. Proving that it works. The kind of stuff you put on satellites because you don't want it to blow up once you get into space. Top down is the junk that most of the stuff we use is.
What is the proof? And this book doesn't answer that, but what is the proof?
It seems like his new personality can't do the proofs. That's one of the reasons he wrote the book.
Could not, no. In fact, he talks about a mathematician that did another proof, not on quality, but he was able to do mathematics around a value.
Value, okay.
So all these philosophical people always point to these different things like, how do you define value? People always talk about the value of something. How do you define that? How do you test it? Right? So here I am, managing people, and we're developing the process, and we're going to I have a ton of classes and certificates on the, managing the development process and all this junk. I mean, everybody.
Junk.
I don't have it anymore, but Jet Propulsion Laboratories wrote.
So that is what
JPL is.
Okay. I looked it up on Google. I'm like, Jet Propulsion Laboratories. This can't be right.
No, they wrote a 3-volume set in the way to do the rules and regulations and the process and the proofs and the checkpoints and you name it, right? And 3 books like that, and I read them. And, to me, they were the Bibles at the time.
Right.
But here comes along corporate America, and every year they would throw, new classes at us. It was either management or the development process, and it either, IBM would come in and go, wait, you've been doing it all wrong, right? Kind of crap.
Right.
So I used to go to all these courses, and it wasn't until I read this book that I realized a lot of what I was trying to do was find out what the proof was of the quality to the user.
Right.
I can't tell you what quality is. All I can do is tell you if the user says, I like it. Right? After months and months of development and writing requirements and all that. So what ends up happening is, and I don't have the book here, but the author is Winograd, Winograd, and he wrote a book, and now we start bleeding into his was about artificial intelligence.
Nice.
And it was about the conversation was called Action Dynamics.
Action Dynamics, interesting.
Well, I ended up going to this course on Action Dynamics, but what came out of it was I got to read his book, which is a little bit different than the commercializing of Action Dynamic, which has to do with conversations between you and creating an action.
Okay.
And then they came up with the word, which is in his book, the condition of satisfaction to the action. When am I satisfied? So, but his whole book was about artificial intelligence. In other words, how are we going to communicate? It's a bit dated, but how are we going to communicate perfectly to artificial intelligence? What is conversation? What is action? And so that book then dovetailed into quality, because now I had what I thought was the definition of quality.
Right.
The condition of satisfaction.
Right.
Okay? And then I had to go articulate that to a user. And this became my battle cry for my whole remaining 30 years in development in banking, whether it was developing prototypes, with users or anything else.
You were crowing about customer satisfaction before it was an archetype.
Yes.
Before other people were even talking about it.
Yeah, well, that's where I came up with my flag.
Nice.
If you were the user, I would say one thing to you. It's not a requirement unless you give me a test.
Ah, very good.
If I can't test it, it's not a requirement.
That is amazing. It's the funny thing is I've used that in a lot of work.
Yeah,
and it may have come. It may have come from you.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, come on, take credit for it. Come on, challenge him.
It
came from Bob.
It got down to that. And of course, the users don't like making
it's
tests or whatever.
I'm not kidding. It is far back enough that customer satisfaction is the core philosophy, and requiring tests to measure it are, you could have been the origin of that for all you know. I haven't heard of it. That is the earliest date I've heard of that.
I don't know, but these went to grad and
without realizing it,
And this book.
Right.
Motorcycle maintenance really brought all of that together. And what was good about it was it was all laid on top. Well, not this, but the other book, Went to Grad, was laid on top of artificial intelligence, which was becoming everybody's toy at the time.
Right.
And then,
which of course was nowhere near actual artificial intelligence.
No,
we still aren't near it.
No, we're not. No, well, that's what this book's all about.
Right.
And I thought, we would talk about this one a little bit, and this is.
So I have not read that. So
this is your next reading assignment.
Oh, she's a winner. The author's a winner of the Turing Award.
Yes.
So the Turing test is a test whether a computer can fool a human into thinking it's a human. Right. So.
Well, what he brings up in his book, and he'll tell you in his book.
Sorry.
What he brings up in the book, and he'll blame himself that he was part of this. That when artificial intelligence and all his writings and articles and theorems and all that was all based on statistics. What we know about fit.
Right. So when did this book actually be read later?
It's a bit dated. The book itself is a bit dated.
When was it published? Because it's interesting.
I think it's 2 years old.
I have something for you.
Okay.
So right around the same time as you're out there talking about customer satisfaction is when marketing was really exploding. Most people don't know, and specifically polling and polling techniques were starting to because originally marketing was just very narrow-minded. A company had a task, they hired a marketing guy, they helped them to reach their goal, and then that was it, they were done. But that was the era where they were starting to use extensive surveys to gauge customer thoughts on everything and come up with long-term strategies marketing-wise. So that's when it was really changing. And it's funny, you were kind of in that zeitgeist at the same time, even though you were on a purely technical end of it. I don't even know if you realized.
No.
But who knows how that influenced him, and he influenced you, and then all of a sudden you're applying it in tech. And as far as I know, that's the earliest date I heard about it in tech. So that's really kind of. Have you ever read The Mythical Man Month?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So I've read that.
Yeah.
So that was around a little bit after that.
That was.
But it didn't talk about customer satisfaction. It was more talking about this, trying to compartmentalize human human problem solving.
Yeah.
And it was and how flawed the process of compartmentalizing it was.
Yeah.
So.
But it also had to do with the definition of effort.
Right.
And it was all interesting.
It's cool how you synopsize these books. Intelligence, excellence, effort. Right, you get it down to one word.
I wish I could do that with everything, but no. The part that he apologizes for was he was the one of a group of people that took the view of artificial intelligence in best fit, and the issue with best fit is that it will recognize a pattern, but it doesn't tell you why. And his whole book
That's machine learning to a T. That's not AI. That's machine learning, which is very different.
Let's go with machine learning, because what machine learning is just a collection of things and making relational patterns between them. What he's talking about in Y.
Yeah.
I sent you that cartoon. I think you wrote it down here.
I did wrote it down here. Yes. It was
children.
The professor teaching, asking people in the class, the children a question.
Right.
And the phrase that the professor proposes to the children is, "Children in the dark make mistakes," and then asks them to reverse it.
Yeah, reverse that.
Children in the dark make mistakes. That's what he asks them to reverse. And what do they say back?
You know, the kid that got kicked out of class is the one that says mistakes made in the dark make children.
Which is probably true.
Well,
just not socially acceptable to talk about.
No, but it's also not an effect.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And that's the whole point of the book.
Well, logic is not a panacea. I mean, this is something I said
in the book. He talks about you can teach a computer about measuring the barometer to tell you when it's going to rain. Or if it needed that information, or maybe send signals out. Oh, we're going to have rain and flooding and all that.
So if I could sum up just from what I've seen of artificial intelligence and what I understand about it so far, is that I would sum it up as logic is not a panacea. And that's the problem with AI right now, is that you can't just throw a lot of logic at problems really fast. And the reason that I figured this out is because of looking into psychopaths who are highly logical. They're actually the extreme case of logical.
Because you studied some of that.
I've been studying psychopaths for like a decade plus now. So like, I mean, I just, I had a problem with a psychopath, and I'm like, okay, how do I, I was used to kind of hacking people and figuring out how they worked and figuring out what made them tick. And I'm like, I don't know how to hack this person. They're opaque to me. And then I'm like, well, I need to figure it out because I got to solve my problem. And then I hacked them. And then I realized, and then that was fine. That was okay. I figured it out. And then I realized nobody else has figured this out yet. And I went, ooh, it's something new. And that became civgene. That was what that whole thing was.
Well, there is a book.
But my efforts on that was, I realized that the reason that people attribute psychopaths to being these horrible monsters, they're not. They have a defect. They don't have empathy. But if you remove empathy, all you have left is logic. So when everybody's like, I demand that our society be completely logical, what they're really saying is, I demand our society be completely psychopathic. Do you really think that through, buddy?
The purge.
Well, the Vikings. The Vikings are a psychopathic cooperative, and the Purge is a variation on that. That's a psychopathic cooperative. Yes, I'm like skipping a few steps, but that's
you should do some correspondence because you might enjoy it. The woman that wrote Killing Eve, that story, she studied psychopaths to write that book, or storyline or screenplay or whatever it is. I saw her interviewed recently, and she talked about that she had to study it. She thought it was fascinating.
Cool. So, I love to talk to people about it. So far, the results with everything I talk about with it have been very good. I've talked to neurologists and psychologists and psychiatrists, and so far the feedback has been excellent. So, in fact, it's not even good enough that I could even begin to hope to look how to tackle this academically, because I'm not getting any real criticism back. Usually just blank stares. So either I'm incredibly wrong, I don't think so, but either I'm incredibly wrong, I don't think so, because people have said.
From what you've told me, and you probably need more work to do, but this is probably an interesting book or a side book. I read a book one time.
But I was kind of getting off the topic when I was talking about logic, and logic doesn't solve problems. And this is what you were talking about, is that really you need that fuzzy logic to approach AI. And that's what empathy, I think, gives us, is fuzzy logic.
Right. And I don't know if we've figured out how to build that in. I mean, he's played around with some formulas, against binary thinking.
And by the way, don't use this to build Skynet, okay, people? No Skynet.
I finally saw T2.
You finally saw. What'd you think of T2, by the way?
It was good. I think I reviewed T1 and T2 last week.
Right. I saw the first half of that, and I had to stop at that point. So what? What'd you think?
T1 was like a solid 7 out of 10 movie for me.
All
Yeah.
right.
T2 was so enjoyable because not only was it still cheesy, but it was just fun.
Yeah, T2 was very.
Well, we need
big.
to be entertained.
Right. Well, but that's how you get through to people, right? I mean, this is that's the problem. If it ever feels like I'm being rude or interrupting you, I'm just trying to keep it fun and keep people on the flow and make it interesting and entertaining, because then they'll just lose the track and then they miss out on the brilliance of Zen and the art of motorcycle repair.
And now
Finding out the source of customers' job one.
Right?
Yeah, customer satisfaction job one, which apparently is Bob. I'm going to give you credit for that until someone corrects me. So get to work, people.
If you can't test it, it's not a requirement. Show me the test.
Yep, show me. That's right. If it's
Show me the test.
You just proved yourself.
That's it.
That you're the leader.
Show me the test.
Nice.
And that's a requirement. You can have that.
Yeah.
But another book, I don't have it anymore. I actually lent it to someone. I don't know if I could get it back, but the book was actually, you're the missing part of this book. It was called Styles of Thinking.
Yeah.
All right? And what's unfortunate about that, it was so that you would accept how another person thought and acted. Mm-hmm. But not how to manipulate it, correct it, or understand it. You, I believe, were onto a formula of, understanding it and being able to, what do they call that in karate and jiu-jitsu? They move the weight of the body.
Forms? Doing it forms, usually that's what they refer to it as.
I think it's in jiu-jitsu, where you use a person's own force and weight, and you deflect it.
Oh, you redirect it? You redirect the energy?
Redirect the energy.
Yeah. We'll just use that, because I don't know what the word is. There is a word for it.
Yeah,
Damn, I wish I knew that word. I should have known. I feel like someone warned me that was coming.
Now, here's where AI is going to help us,
right.
Even if it's just straight logic. But it was interesting. Before I came here, I had some wild related things and stuff. And
all right. So I have not read the Book of Why. So this is going to be completely superficial to it, because it's just a title that I'm talking about. I'm sure there's a lot of detail in there. But I actually recently have come up with something. This I didn't show you because I only showed it to Austin, and I showed it to Austin and his eyes rolled back in his head. This is 11 pages of axioms. Okay. This is my brain. So essentially, I've been piling up axioms that I think are true for the better part of 2 decades.
Okay.
And that was part of one of the reasons I figured out civgene. Because I was like, okay, I have to apply all these rules, and and of course they don't all apply perfectly. And this is one of the reasons I think logic. I think logic's not a panacea, because I've already seen it fail so many times, right? When it works perfectly in one situation and then not in another, and. But so one of the axioms is you go further through this list, it becomes less quotes and more things I've figured out.
Okay.
And one of the things I figured out is the how explains the what, right? And there's more to it. The what explains the when, and the when explains the who, and the who explains the why. So if you're asking why, you really need to start at the how, which is very much going back into the Zen of motorcycle repair.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but so I really think, so when people are like, why? But they're not interested in how.
I'll correct you there. No, it doesn't go back to the Zen. Zen is the piece that defines quality and.
Well, I'm shortcutting the name of the book.
No, it's the other book, the Winograd.
Oh, okay.
Action Dynamics.
Oh, okay.
That's the why, because it's a circular.
Right.
Regression.
You'll never know why unless you know how. That's the best you can do to figure out why is how. If you figure out how, everything else becomes clear. And this is why. So how to the what to the when to the who, and who to the why. We're just, if you're looking at who, why is that person the who? It's because they're at the right place in the right time.
And that's what he challenges. Logic doesn't explain it. Mm-hmm. The correlation is not causality.
Right. I love rhetorical questions, man.
Well, you're gonna other than the math struggling.
Yeah.
And maybe you won't. Mm-hmm. I did, but I enjoy that. It's kind of like a puzzle. Mm-hmm. And he goes into math because he's trying to solve the issue. Mm-hmm. And as I said, this is 2018, and this book's already dated. Really,
right.
When you really think about it.
The truth is never dated. So if it's true, it's not dated. this is one of the this is a problem with tech this is why these books that we're discussing are so great. They're tech manuals,
yes,
but they're generic tech manuals. And of course, motorcycle repair was written that way.
Yes.
And I assume that was written that way, and the jet propulsion was written that way, which is why it's so excellent, right? So, but for every book like that, there's 100,000 books that are all in the details of the moment, and my shelves are filled with them at home from people either bringing them in or donating them or just discarding them because 3 years later they're completely useless because it's so detailed in the moment. It's just like a picture, and it's only good for nostalgia. It's not really any good for anything else.
But it's sad when you read a book and you can't apply it.
Yeah,
as I said, these were applicable.
Yeah, Mythical Man Month too, by the way. If you're looking for a book, that's also timeless.
It helps you with the whole argument.
KNRC, I would say, is KNRC. I don't know if you ever read that one. Richie Conan, what's his name? And Richie C. I forgot his last name. That book is one of the more timeless technical books that I found out there. But even that, eventually, most people aren't using C, so it's limited in what you can use it for, right? Like if you went back in time and told everybody in 1998 that we're frantically programming in Perl that they should switch to Python, they'd be like, "You're crazy." Yeah, they weren't crazy.
Hey, it's all assembler. I don't care what you say.
Yeah, nice. Well, nice pulling rank with assembly.
Well, other than there are engines out there, but yes.
Yeah, no, it's just right. I had a ton of input from. Now I see why you wanted me to read that book. That book is definitely the glue, and there's a lot of great ideas in there. And actually, some of it applies to the technocracy. So I think some of it still applies now. So looking at the what was it the logos and the pathos. The pathos is more of the artistic kind of view of the world.
Okay.
Right. The aesthetic.
Oh, okay.
The aesthetic, right? So we switched to this world where everything is strictly logic. And I think what's happened is the technocracy is spinning so far out of control. And actually this has something to do with this guy Austin, this philosopher that was on my show the other day. And I think he's trying to deal with why are people not interested in philosophy? They're burnt. They're burnt out on the promises, the failed promises of logic. Now, that isn't to say that logic isn't amazing. It is. But the problem is when you apply logic to every facet of life, it's great for knowledge, but it's not great for self-knowledge. It doesn't work for self-knowledge because we're not logical. So of course you have to have the aesthetic in your life.
I can't remember one of the authors.
And I think this is part of what we're seeing. We're seeing this on social media where people are just it's all about selfies and image and attacking this and supporting that and peacocking. It's all image stuff, right. And that's what's really happening is that people are becoming obsessed with the aesthetic because the logic is just completely defeated them. Right? They're just defeated. They're useless in their own minds. I'm not saying they are useless, but they think they are. And this is where the technocracy is done to people. It's turned them into people who are just these nervous wrecks who are incapable of self-actualization. So, hey man, snap out of it. Logic is good. But the thing is, also you have to be willing to use it in limited doses. People are treating science as a religion.
Well, I think in the book he talks about the mathematician that was trying to define value. Mm-hmm. Well, he was trying to do quality, right?
Right.
And in the book on value, I think he brought up the problem about human thinking, and we have something that's not artificially intelligent. Mm-hmm. That's intuition.
Right.
And somebody else.
Intuition, the only source of insight.
There you go.
That's the empathy does that. That's our conscience, actually.
Insight and intuition. Somebody brought up the point that in review, a summary review of this book and the other author, their papers, that Einstein never tested anything. But he didn't. He role played it in his mind.
How dare he? He's canceled. I'm canceling Einstein.
He role played it in his mind. I mean, he lived it.
Right.
And they said that's the part of the the brain you'd like to capture the intuition.
What's that SpongeBob meme? Imagination.
Yes. We'll figure this out. Oh, wait, I know what it is.
Well, no, but that's true. He said, people are like, well, don't you need a laboratory? He's like, the paper is my laboratory.
That's right.
Right?
I've done it on paper.
And he said that the key to discovery is imagination. And it's true. It is absolutely true. And it's because those insights are coming from our. So here's the trick. Here's the really easy way to understand the role of the conscience compared to the mind. And this is what the artificial intelligence folks need to look at, is that the conscience is a risk engine. That's what it really is. So what it does is it allows you to face new risks faster than you can calculate them logically, because it's the way our brains, the way our conscience works. The id and the superego are actually connected, and so there are base impulses, things you see in the animal kingdom. But the thing that separates people are the insights that we get that are not part of those base impulses, and it's fast. And the reason it's fast is because our imaginations, our risk engine, has emotional metadata attached to every memory, and we have two different ways we can access each memory. So we have a rational, logical mind, a waking mind that can access the memories in order, in logical pathways that we build, but also we can visit them through emotional metadata and looking at things that have similar emotions attached to them. And there's a lot of subtlety in that similar emotion, and maybe it's just that subtlety that's different from the animal kingdom, or maybe it's the entire construct entirely. Probably it's a subtlety, because that's how natural selection works. And the great thing about that is now because we can visit things we can kind of precog our emotional things, and we can see something that we've never seen before and have an appropriate response to it, because it kind of rhymes with something we've seen before. And that's a huge advantage, particularly for travel. And that's why I think this started at the beginning of civilization, that people started really branching out and traveling to new places. Because if you're in a new land,
that the animals
you see new animals and new plants and new terrain and new weather. Having this is the advantage you need to survive.
I never knew I liked ribs until we got to here.
Right. Or more like, when those leaves rustle, it isn't like anything I've ever seen, but it's kind of like what happened in Africa.
Why are the birds going
20
south?
years. Right. But then, like, you can't process all that rationally, and you see the birds move, and a little part of your brain goes, danger.
But
that's the advantage.
Think about the
evolutionary advantage.
The two Legos, right? Artificial intelligence, which is correlation, right? And deep learning, which is I'm going to keep a memory of everything that's ever happened and then try to build correlations between them. Take that on the chess game. Computer knows every move.
Right.
Okay? But there's nothing in there for it to take a risk, fail, and learn.
Right. Right.
But it can deep learn every move, because you're going to feed it and say,
right, that's
these are all, this is all the proper moves that could ever happen in the game. But it doesn't have anything that says, I'm going to do this on a whim.
Right, right.
And see what happens. It never knows about that experience.
Right. So we perceive, because we can't directly access our subconscious, we perceive it as on a whim, but it's actually not. There's a logic to it. It's just a logic we can't see.
Yeah, it may be, I'm trying to fool him that I lost the game.
I think it's
dragging him in.
It's a logic of probabilities. I think what the risk engine is actually a probability engine that we inadvertently formed through one mutation too many in the right direction, and one person formed it, and it was such a huge advantage that it just, Homo sapiens as we know them, post-psychopath.
Post-psychopath?
Well, no, but that's we evolved from psychopaths. That's what this, because there's like, a lot of people are like, they're missing an empathy, and I'm like, well, maybe we have empathy and they're missing it because it's not part of their makeup. Maybe we evolved from them. And I look at psychopaths and I look at the rest of the animal kingdom, and they have more in common than we have with the rest of the animal kingdom.
You were telling me that there's a marker in DNA where they could say, this person should be a psychopath.
Right. Well,
But they don't.
I think it's there. We don't know what it is. And actually, there's going to be a huge political pushback to not finding it.
Oh.
What I was talking about was the hair test. So, and actually, it's kind of cool because Steve was there.
I was going to say, Steve's hair's been tested?
Steve's hair test. Steve's was here for the last episode of Tales from the Ocean, and what Steve would do is he would read a word off, and they would just go blah, 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 and react to the word.
Okay.
Right? And on their show, and they would have reactions to it.
Right.
And so that's actually, if you do that with an MRI hooked up to someone's brain, Dr. Robert Hare, who's the author of the psychopath test, which is used in courts and schools and everywhere all over it's the DSM standard for if someone's a psychopath or not.
Right.
Use the MRI and this word test, and it turns out if you read emotionally charged words to people, their brains light up like Christmas trees.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like the whole brain gets involved.
Right.
And this is where I got this idea from emotional. I'm like, I looked at that, I'm like, all right, so the whole brain's involved. What does that remind you of when a computer does? Like, imagine the hard drive lighting up and just going.
Right.
And I'm like, when does that happen? A wild card test.
Okay.
So that word, that emotionally charged word, is connected to almost all of their memories. But here's the interesting thing. That's what I think is going on. He didn't describe that. I described that. But the interesting thing is, I think what's happening is what is happening, not what I think. What is happening is when the psychopath reads that same word, it's just like every other word. It's just a little piece of the brain lights up.
Something I talked.
So there's no wild card
this
search.
A few days ago.
Right.
Something I mentioned to you, the Swan Song. Mm-hmm. Right. And you had I think you had a different title for that.
Right. Oh yeah.
But
you're talking about the hierarchy stuff.
No.
The kings. Oh no. Sorry. Yeah.
No, about a singer. Why do we somebody sing?
Oh right. Why do we find the Pied Piper? Yes,
the Pied Piper. That's
the Pied Piper. Yeah.
All right. So here's my little fix on the theory you're working on. Mm-hmm. Okay. And
fixes are welcome.
You say a word.
Right.
The brain lights up.
Right. Cancer.
You're thinking, okay.
Or
an emotional response. Mm-hmm. How do you know?
Sorry about doing that to your brain.
No, that's all right.
I just saw your brain.
How do you know that the light up is not just a neurological connections?
Right.
But it could have been a neurological connection that then stimulated the neurons that stimulate the chemistry in your body and what's lighting up. Mm-hmm. And then affecting the other neurons. You just like pumped, 1,000 cc's just on the word cancer.
So I don't know.
Okay.
But I think they do know, and I can confirm this off air.
Are they testing
because remember the brain chemistry, right? Like let's say it's adrenaline, right?
Yes.
Adrenaline doesn't hit right away. It takes a few seconds.
Okay.
Why? Bump, 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 bump,
okay.
bump, bump. Now you've got adrenaline.
Well, let's see. The body circulates a blood cell, and I imagine other chemicals in 1 second around the whole body.
Right. Well, that's the best case.
That's a fact check.
That's a
but
best.
I think that's right.
All right, Steve, we need you.
No,
we need you.
I think that's correct.
We've gone off the deep end.
It takes 1 second for a blood cell to circulate through the whole body.
I think we lost Steve. I can hear him.
Typing it?
Okay, cool. No, cool. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't know how fast does the blood circulate above, but I think it takes a few seconds.
Yeah.
So that doesn't match the MRI data. The MRI data is actually
so
faster.
You got to light up.
1 minute.
1 minute. I thought it was 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's effectively instantaneously. So it's got to be an electrical connection, whatever this connection is. So it may be chemical. There may be biochemical elements to it.
Local biological.
It may be but it's local neurons that are firing the local neurons.
They go with the flow of the water in the blood. They all cycle together.
So for sure, it would take at least a few seconds, even if it was a gland in the brain pouring stuff out. It would still take a few seconds to get across the brain.
What are
That's
the
too
three
long.
chemicals? It's serotonin,
dopamine, and look, I'm not.
Yeah, okay.
I've been focusing on. They call it forensic genealogy. So I've been focusing on forensic genealogy and just the forensic part of it, not the genealogy. But genetics is a hard science now. I don't stand a chance.
Okay.
You know, I would need to like study for 20 years just to get to the point of finding one of the pieces of this. So I don't know. And I'm willing to say I don't know, but I see the effects in society. I see the psychological effects. I see the societal. I see the philosophical effects. You know, sometimes I use the philosophical. I use the philosophy to turn around and make predictions, which usually come true. Mm-hmm. So that I'm satisfied with that. I have no idea what the chemical is. I have a theory that I think it's fear, despair, and bliss.
Yes.
As the three emotional triad that forms emotional metadata.
And there are
but there may be
different
more
mixtures of those chemicals.
As somebody else said to me, there could be 100 of them, and that's true. I mean, there might be, but the three that I can identify are fear, despair, and bliss.
Okay.
And the thing about fear, sorry, not fear. I got it wrong. Sorry.
It sounded almost like, I'm sorry, it almost sounded
despair,
like a Monty Python.
Fear, despair, blues. No.
Bring out
despair,
the chair. Bring out the easy chair.
Despair,
Puffy.
Bliss, and aggression. Sorry,
Okay.
fear, despair, and aggression, which would be which would be adrenaline or testosterone or something like that.
Right.
It may be a combination. That's why I'm saying I don't know that this is. I'm just using this triad as a structure to build up more of the theory on. So.
Interesting. Fight, flee.
Yes.
Stand still.
Yeah. Well,
stone.
I'm just stealing
You're
it.
stone.
Right?
No, I get it.
Yeah. So everything I'm doing, I'm trying to base it on other science so that I don't have to argue everything, right? Because that's how science is done. You don't want to argue. You want to minimize your new information, right? You want to use other sources. So the thing that's interesting about all those things is they have now components. They don't have before components, and they don't have later components. So one of the reasons I think human beings have such a strong sense of nostalgia is I think when we're transversing time, we're actually using our metamind and looking at things emotionally. So in other words, if you pinpoint a particular point in time, let's say, what was the best motorcycle ride you ever had? Mm-hmm. Just think about that. When you think about that, there's actually a particular chemical concoction in your brain that correlates mainly and maybe even only to that. And as that formula changes, as bliss, despair, and will to action change, that and maybe other factors change, that actually changes your point of reference on the timeline. Our perspective on past and future are actually derived from our emotional metamind. Animals, the animal kingdom, do not have a concept of anything other than now. You know, simplest example, and this is weird because dogs might be the exception in the animal kingdom that have a conscience because we inadvertently bred one into them. Mm-hmm. But a dog, you're petting a dog, you stop petting it, what does it do?
No, but the dog knows to come back to you for petting.
No, I know that.
It has
but
a memory.
It doesn't want you to ever stop petting.
Oh, well.
Yeah, there is no future or past. There's only I'm being petted or I'm not being petted. Not, oh, he'll pet me later, right? But they do kind of do that, right? So dogs are weird. So the reason that I say dogs are weird, I know I'm really going off the deep end now with this theory.
No, I find this fascinating.
There's something called this is also based in science. There's something called the learning triangle, and there's exactly two species that demonstrate understanding with the learning triangle. The learning triangle is you, me, and my finger. If I point at something, what do?
You look.
Right.
By the way,
feels natural, right?
I think only dogs will actually look, but other animals will not look where you're pointing. They have no concept of even body language like that.
Most importantly, even primates.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Banana.
So I think that the reason that dogs do that is we may have in it because we've been with there's been so many generations with humans.
Built into them.
I mean, how many you can have 2 generations a year with them easily, right? So whatever, 20,000 generations, we've inadvertently built the conscience in them by favoring attributes that resemble our own. But Only because anytime you see animals getting along in a way that humans normally do, there's always a human involved. It's always a triangle.
All right, so domestication.
You know, like you see a bear and the deer's not, pissing the bear off, and the bear's not eating the deer. It's because a human's there.
Well, the question is, has the feature always been there, and we just reinforced it?
It probably has.
Or did somehow...
And I don't think that matters, because it just matters if it's significantly more prominent in us, even though all the pieces are there in the other animals, that doesn't matter.
Before we came in here,
like Darwin with birds with long beaks and short beaks. Yeah, lots of birds have long beaks and short beaks. But what was important was the process of selection that emphasized one or the other in the Galapagos.
So we've lost panspermia.
What?
Panspermia.
Panspermia?
Well, where DNA has been sent to the Earth to create different things, and then viruses have modified them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, Darwin wrote the book on observation.
Right. Right.
He didn't say why. And
right.
He didn't say how.
I'm not saying why either.
Over time, stuff happens.
I just noticed that psychopaths and animals kind of have some things in common. I'm like, well, come on, guys. I don't think anybody wants to talk about it because it makes them sad. But I mean, humans are crazy. We're constantly projecting faces and personalities on things that don't have them, and I think that's one of the attributes of the conscience.
Like what do you see in a cloud?
What do you see in a cloud, or what do you see in a Disney movie? Oh, look, that teapot's talking to me.
Almost the question I got out before we walked in here when you were talking about that Netflix show,
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror, which I guess I got to go see now or find.
This is the Black Mirror, by the way. That was the play of words.
No, the question is
now it looks more like a mirror. It had fingerprints on it before.
You can ask your friends when they look into the.
You never noticed this?
Never put two and two together.
Yes, this is the Black Mirror. I'm so pretty. Look at me.
Well, that's the thing. When you look into that mirror, what do you see? Is there an age that you're locked into?
I see a disgusting bearded dude.
I actually look right past myself.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
I just look right through me.
I'm in trouble then.
I'll pull out and I'll go, okay. I'm old. I don't want to look at that. I'll look right through myself.
I look in the mirror, and I see all the details, the wrinkles, the age, the beard, and all that crap. But you know what's looking back at me, and what I associate with myself at 21 years old.
Really?
There's a point in time where that's who I recognize. Mm-hmm. And when I see pictures and stuff of me younger, I just go, oh, was that me as a kid?
Yeah.
But you show me somebody from age 21 on of me,
right?
And I go, oh, that's me. That there's that kind of gap, and that I've talked to a few people and asked them about that. And there is an age you lock into where you set your vision of yourself. And
I may be doing that too. I may be doing that too.
You just lay over it the fact, oh, it's got a beard on it. Mm-hmm. But what it is you in a period of time.
You know what? I think I see a younger me.
Yeah. So
I think it's like I was like a time capsulation thing, and I think I time capsuled myself pre-puberty, like 11 or so.
Oh, well, there you go.
So like mentally, I'm 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and everything else that in reality you see there
past the age
is
of
on
reason,
top of the 11-year-old.
but before the craziness hit.
Yeah.
Well, because sometimes I'll do crazy stuff and I'll be like, holy crap, did I do that? Yeah. Like I'll shock myself.
Would I've done that at 11?
A 21-year-old though probably wouldn't be shocked. Oh yeah, of course I did that. Fuck that, man. But I mean, it doesn't mean I'm not criticizing. Actually, it's just where I think if I had to lock myself at age, it was 11.
You have to come onto the show just to see these mugs.
Yes, please come on the show if you're interested in having a conversation like this.
Mugs.
We can go anywhere you want. It's lots of fun. I had this armory. This weapons in case somebody goes on the attack or somebody wants to go really deep on some squirrely thing I don't know.
Right.
But really, like we can go anywhere we want. I like talking about the philosophy and the psychology but like really, the technocracy is also it's really a reflection of the next stage of human evolution, where we really do give our brains up to these things, at least in part, and if we don't understand that relationship, we're done. So that's one of the reasons.
You wonder about the first ape that looked in at the water and saw itself.
Right. They just looked right through themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the thing that.
The reason I look right through myself.
Actualization.
The reason I look right through myself is because at 11 I didn't really look in the mirror.
Okay.
So I don't really see myself because I don't really have an image, a self-image from when I was 11. it's a concept. It's not a human. You know, it's not a face.
That's an interesting point. I mean, you know,
I think that's why.
You look at yourself like when you're taking care of facial hair, combing and stuff like that.
Right.
So before that, this self-actualization in pictures and in the mirror, but because you're not using the mirror to take care of yourself, you lock it in later on when it becomes more important about that image. And then that gets locked in.
Yeah, well, the hormones hit and you're like, I need girls.
I need girls.
I need girls. And I'm like...
Don't go there. We'll get back into harassment.
Well, I was a boy at the time. I'm talking about when the hormones hit. That wasn't at 40. All right, that was they hit my balls dropped way before that. So so it's kind of there's this funny Twitter post. I just want to tell the story because it's kind of funny. It's kind of about mirrors too.
Okay.
So there's a funny Twitter post. Somebody put up a post. A scientist put up a mirror in the jungle, and then proceeded to show how each animal reacted when they saw the mirror. And it was a really popular post, and I thought it was great. I retweeted it and stuff. And I'm looking at it, and I watched the video, and I watched it again, and I watched it again, and then I posted my comment.
Was he testing you? Sorry.
I posted more like I'm testing him. I'm like, oh, everyone's like, oh, look what the gorilla did. It's funny, or you know, the ape went crazy, the gorilla went crazy, or the hippo was scared, or whatever. And I'm like, the human reacted by cleaning the mirror because that's what I saw. I'm like, what does the human do?
That's a logical thing, and you'd say stay away from that.
No, logic's fine for outside yourself.
Okay.
Inside yourself for self-knowledge, it's not going to do you shit.
Not good. Yeah.
It's not going to help you. You know, you can't use it. And also, I have a new tool that no one's had access to, so I can use logic they can't.
Ooh.
Right? I figured if you figure out dangerous things about people, and it's actually, unfortunately, there's been a few things I figured out about psychopaths that I can't tell people because they're too dangerous. They could be abused. But and not really. They unfortunately, between Freud and Jung and marketing and propaganda, they basically figured everything out about empathetic psychology.
How to influence,
but they haven't figured out everything about psychopaths.
No.
So I have a few things that are kind of dangerous. So actually, I don't want to put them out there because they're dangerous. If you read through my stuff and you figure it out, you'll come to the same conclusions. But nobody's talking about it, so I'm like, I guess nobody knows. So yeah, it's kind of. But that was one of the reasons I started the show, is because I started thinking about that, and I'm like, well, I'm not sure if that's ethical or not. I don't know what to do. Like, is it ethical to withhold truth? So let's get into this question, right? Is it ethical to withhold truth if you think the truth can do harm? And my favorite example is Freud and the Nazis. Freud did all this psychology work, and before he died, he was kicked out of his own country by people using propaganda that was derived from his theories. He's in England with his lesbian daughter, who he experimented on, which, by the way, is completely fine, but I don't think he saw it as fine. He opened the door to a greater human consciousness, but he saw it as like, what have I done? He didn't even understand the implications of what he was doing. So some of them were good, right? I mean, of course, the Brits did Alan Turing after that. He was one of the people who defeated the Germans, and he got screwed because he was gay. But at the same time, it was like, he created this world where he just couldn't foresee the consequences. So is it moral to release information that you can't foresee the consequences of?
That's interesting. What's the test?
I don't know. It depends. I mean, if you don't even know whether
things have to age like cheese. I mean, what's the test?
So I've had people on here who said, absolutely, you should release it. The truth is all, because of course that's the philosophical basis of the logos of science. Science is the logos, right? You got all truth is the goal. Truth is the means. Truth is the end. Truth. We gave up aesthetics so we could seek truth, right? We don't care how things look anymore. We care how things work. But I don't know. I mean, there's been a few examples where, sure, Einstein worked out with mutually assured destruction, but
Yeah, it should all truth be
Did he know
available to everything. Well, isn't that part of the theory behind the ancient alien guys and the pursuit of UFOs? The government can't tell us because we can't handle it.
Right.
Well, on the other hand,
people are panicky creatures.
Yeah, right. On the other hand, I've come to terms with angels with wings and God and everything else. So, hey, throw an alien at me.
I don't know if I'm hyper rational or not, or I'm making excuses. But I'm Christian. My mom died.
Okay.
A week after my mom died, I hallucinated God, or did I? Apparently, it's fairly common when someone dies, they hallucinate their dead relatives.
Yes.
And I hallucinated my mother in the presence of God. It came out of a dream, but it became a waking dream, which is also pretty hard science. In fact, you can kill someone in the first 7 seconds after you wake up, and you're not in trouble. That's from prison case law, right? So just in case anybody's going to try to demonstrate this makes me crazy, you better do your research because it doesn't.
Ooh, prisons. I think the song is Heather. Is that the
yes.
Right? Nice.
Yeah. Maybe we
Heather,
can review
I'll look
that
up
later.
Heather. Maybe it'll make the Technocrat.
No, I have it queued up, so we. But
I don't know. I mean, if it's conventional psychology that someone can have faith in something that no one can prove,
right?
Then it's not an issue.
You're bringing up among these.
I knew you'd be great.
No. Among these guys, and I don't know the name.
Heathens. Okay.
Heathens.
Okay.
Heather. What do I know? Say
Heathers, Heathens, whatever.
Heathens.
Heathers was a good movie too.
Yeah. Heathens. One never knows how the mind really works, but no, you've come up with a point of the man's pursuit of understanding, intuition, invention, discovery. I mean, all of those kind of weird things that we do.
Right. The broad field of insight.
Right. But here's the point I'm trying to make about when is it okay to share? You said truth. I mean, sometimes people discover things that aren't the truth, but they share it. Fake news, right?
Right. Or things they may legitimately think it's true.
They may
really, if you have a conspiracy theory and things have lined up just right, you're like, oh, well, this must be true. The facts fit this. Every set of facts I've ever known in my life fits this, but you may have different facts.
So when is it good to share? Now, maybe I made some notes in here because these guys are all about quality, and there was one guy. I think in Wintergrad's book may have referenced, was also trying to do a mathematical formula about morality. What's moral?
He's trying to apply logic.
I have to find...
Well, it's funny, Persic specifically mentioned in his book that ethics is not part of the logos because they couldn't figure out a way to put it in there.
Okay.
Yeah, but but that doesn't mean someone shouldn't try.
No, but there are guys out there probably drove themselves nuts like he did, trying to go ahead and define what's moral, what's morality.
I think our morality comes from probabilities, so therefore what's moral is what's probable.
But we don't know what's probable.
Yes, we don't.
Unless we examine all risks.
That's true. How do you know what the scope of risks is?
Don't. We only have an inference of it.
Right.
But again,
we don't know that logically, and we can't because there's so many variables. The problem becomes so vast. Even a supercomputer consisting of all the computers in the world couldn't do it.
So you'll never know when to release information.
Well, you can just do probabilities. That's all you can do. You can just approach certainty.
And what if you're wrong?
Which is what quantum computers, by the way, prove that they work. Is by approaching probability.
Oh.
You give it a problem, and you say, okay, well, it tends to find the answer in this case, so we've solved the problem. Right? That's how you deal with fuzzy logic instead of binary logic.
Well, fuzzy logic is a close proximity.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's like
you just approach
dimmer.
You never reach.
It's the dimmer switch.
Right.
Now, I mean, today we have dimmer switches. They go click, click, click.
Right.
And there may be a digital or binary.
It's a non-stepped dimmer switch.
It's a half steps. But the old thing about if you took a half step to the wall, and you took another half step, your nose will never touch the wall. It's just not possible.
Right.
So therefore, with fuzzy logic, there are infinite states.
Right.
And here's the thing I wanted to try to talk about. It's kind of back to the old AC and DC, Tesla. No, those guys too. Tesla and Edison.
Yeah.
Tesla and Edison, right?
Right.
Two different ways of doing things, all right? Well, when computers were being put together, we went analog versus digital. What is analog? What's the theory behind analog and how it seems to work versus digital? Analog analyzes models. What does digital do? Hard and fast models. I think, and this goes back to my thinking of the environment that neurons are into with the chemistry is the analog state. It's fuzzy, right? There's no hard, CCs. It's whatever the brain wants to pump out at that instant. And it could be because it was a flash of light or something you heard while you were thinking. You say cancer. Do I react the same way here when you say that word or when I'm at home with friends?
Right. Yeah, and your proximity, well, I think that's part of the calculation. Context is part of the consideration.
Context is?
Yeah, probability depends
and
on context.
It's an analytical. And
context can even change by just changing your scope.
Yes.
Yeah.
So therefore, AI will never approach perfection until they can have the analog environment for it to sit in. It's the analog environment that comes
of sufficient scope.
I don't know what that means. No, but I mean, I can project.
Well, let me. I can make that. I can articulate that specifically,
Right.
Which is that. So there was this. A lot of people were afraid of 2015, 2012 to 2015, because that was when computers, based on Moore's law, would reach the point where the amount of circuits, computationally, the amount of decision-making choices equal the amount of choices the human brain can make.
And nobody wanted to go through another Y2K.
And everybody was afraid that the 2013, 2014, around there, that time range, that somewhere in there, that you would suddenly get a singularity where there was a single artificial intelligence that was smarter than the smartest human, and now there's no reining it in because it'll just keep outwitting us, and it'll just get smarter and smarter and smarter and take over and become a god, and we're doomed, right? Now, and it's the same. It's interesting. It's the same periphery problem as an alien life coming to Earth. Like, if you ever see, you're a Star Trek fan?
Yeah.
You see the movie First Contact?
Yeah.
And the Vulcans came. So their criteria is the warp signature. So it makes sense that there would be a first contact protocol. It's just, if you sit down and you think about it carefully, it goes, okay, of course, aliens are going to want to keep an eye on us.
By the way, don't we have that somewhere? I think somebody in the UN.
Right. Well, that's our first contact protocol. I'm saying if spacefaring aliens if aliens can be spacefaring, they probably have a first contact protocol.
Okay.
Which means that all that needs to happen is we just need to figure out what the criteria is, and then they'll roll up and say hi. So it's the same problem. It's that periphery problem, right? So you could argue that we passed by the artificial intelligence threshold, right? Where you could build a computing cluster that was faster than a human, and artificial intelligence, there was a pretty good shot, 50-50 shot, it was going to appear right there, right? That we had the algorithms all along, we just didn't have the power to run them fast enough. But it didn't happen. So if anything, that's a kind of an anecdotal proof that logic is not a panacea. That, the binary logic, that dialectic, this 1 or 0, because the Hegelian dialectic, or the dialectic like they describe it in the Zen, is just, it's a binary search tree. Logic is just a binary search tree. The problem is when you're applying a binary search tree to probability zones, that all you do is you just have a weapon to hit people over the head with. That's where he went wrong with quality. And that's why we're going wrong with artificial intelligence, I think.
I mean, he went, I mean,
you know, it's because he went to the University of
discovery
Chicago.
that he went down the wrong road because he couldn't mathematically define quality, where he saw other people try to define mathematically value.
Because quality is in the mind.
But made him discover the task was impossible for him and split his brain.
Right.
And he was able to bring it back together.
He literally put every neuron into it, and it just went. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's a great. I don't think we can beat that. That's the best end we could possibly have, right?
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show.
This is, you know.
I really appreciate it. Could you believe we're done?
Yeah, that's, you know, it's good.
Crazy. You want to come back on sometime?
Yeah.
All right.
There's so many. You have a list of subjects.
I'm going to try to get a panel going before you split town. I'll hit you with a date if you can make it. If not, we'll do it next year
I'm
when
heading
you're back.
towards Florida, November 13th.
You winter in the great tropical beyond. So.
Yeah.
And then you'll be back when the snow goes away. So.
After April.
Lucky.
You're going to do it one day.
I like shoveling snow. I don't mind.
You like shoveling snow.
You like shoveling out your spot on the street?
No. Actually, I have a plan for that. Of course, I have a plan for that. And I also have an electric snowblower. So it's really, I'm doing my neighbors' yards and everything's really easy now.
So I'm not interested in this because my neighbors take care of my snow.
Our technology.
But there is technology for this. You can put out a couple of those heated mats and there's nothing.
Yeah, you can put heated coils in your.
Just, you know.
Right.
You can put the actual mats
out.
down. You don't have to take up the bricks or whatever. Just throw the mats down.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for being on the show.
It's great. No, this is.
Good night, everyone.
This is fun.
I'm glad you had fun. And
I hope we get some feedback with some of the things we talked about.
Well, you know what? Spread the word. And if you know someone else who wants to come on the show, tell them. And tell them to watch the show and tell us we're full of poop. And I'll respond by laughing.
That'd be great if
also
there's some guys out there that want to go with full of poop and drill down on some
I'm ready for the poop. I'm ready for the poop comments. All right, see you later.
Take care. Thanks.
Good night.